I forgot to do something. Snap. Alright, let's see. About to go live on the... Oh no, I've opened the wrong program. Just gonna crash the stream. Cancel. So if you guys were here last night, you know exactly what lies behind that door. Just gonna give it a minute, get the stream up and running before we go beat this guy's ass. Get our boss map up as well, that'd be useful. Oh look, it's broken on its own. Why did it do that? Must have heard me. Now that is an example of hyperactive agency detection. Me assigning a mind with agency to the event that was the screen going black. Me saying that there was intention behind that event. That was more than a mere technical malfunction. That same hyperactive agency detection device you just saw me express was one of the ways that early humans invented gods. Here's this phenomenon or thing that I don't understand. Therefore, there's some mind that does understand it or is responsible for it. Well, maybe you didn't see the screen blacken on your end. I saw it on my end. And that was enough to trigger that primal need to explain it. Test 1, 2. Oh yeah, I forgot to do the thingy. Do the TT chat. Let's see if it's being sensitive today. I do mean to run some tests later. Maybe we'll try it towards the end of the stream so I don't ruin it. I mean, it's hard to make it any worse than it is already, but just have a conversation. So we are in the snowfield. No, we're in the underground, which actually should have its own boss map. Mic check, stream check. Cool. I heard the mic was a little bit crispy on the tube side. Test. A little bit. Yeah. Normal speaking voice, still hitting that red line. Alright, never mind. Let's see what we got here. What's up, sucker? Early boy, how you doing? Mason, I don't think it's very cool for me to call you that, mate. Serious your name, bro. What's up, Ayo? Oh, sorry, Awu, how you doing? Oh, he slapped me. You gotta watch out for this guy. He's gonna like damage the ground and you get like secret damage you don't notice. Duo? What did he say? Why did he say duo? Look, see? Cheater. Knee heal, he says. Folding clothes? Why are you folding clothes so early? Let's take him out the wash. Oh, I'm dead! So lucky. No, I could have got in on that Lord's Hill. I'm so dead. Yo, blood loss as well. Oh, give me my health back. Quick. Oh, I can't control it. I'm scrabbling mentally. Got him. Got him. What's up, Joshua? I mean, is that you agreeing or disagreeing? Now, how do we get Mog's Great Rune, actually? I've never actually got that. Can't sleep. It's like, oh, what country you in, bro? It's like 1 o'clock. Not too bad, Ehu. Let's find out how to get Mog's rune. Where is Mog's rune? Someone said I found it. View the spoiler. I found Rykard, Margot's, Radon, Godric. Isolated Tower isn't where Mog's rune is activated, and there isn't any more on the map. Record the tower where you activate. What the hell? Oh, you said recheck. Record. Same tower as Morgott. Which tower is Morgott's rune? If you want to use Mog's Great Rune after acquiring it from Mog, Lord of Blood, you will need to restore its power similarly to the other Great Runes by visiting an appropriate Divine Tower. In this case, the Divine Tower of East Altus. Where is that? Show me on the map. Divine Tower is key location in Altus Plateau. From Lendel. Wait, what? Divine Tower of East. Oh, let me see. I feel like I've been there already. I have. So his rune's there as well? Alright, we'll check that out later. Now we need to figure out how to do the save Melina. Alright, initiate the frenzy flame, allow the three fingers to brand you, giving you start Millicent's quest through Millicent's lengthy quest line, eventually leading her to Haligtree. Oh yeah, that's the girl, right? I remember that. That's back in the town with the magicians. Right, sorry chat, I'm just like zoning out trying to figure out what to do next. I already know the answer to my question. Why do you think that? Subsea. Oh yeah, some people think it's possible for a god to be actually an alien. I hear it. Could just be, like, especially when people say higher power. If they think of God as simply just a higher power, then yeah, it could just be an alien then. It's not specifically saying it's some supernatural thing. It could just be an extraterrestrial thing. I'm trying to get the ending where I save the girl, right? So he sets himself on fire instead. So I think I'm gonna have to go back and do this is it that one? Yeah, I gotta save this girl, Churchill Plague, Millicent. I gotta do her quest, get her to the Halig tree. I've done that before, but get a golden needle of some kind. I can't remember exactly how to make sure it happens that way. What's that, Penny? Thanks for the likes. But let's go see if we can get Mog's rune. What's up, Brock Lesnar? What do you mean they forgot the almighty creator of the heavens and earth? What do you mean? Surely that's another one of the inventions that humans made, right? Let's just check our boss map, make sure there's no one down there. Right, so what we got? We are here. We just did 19. 19 is Mog. 18 is Whiteface Vari. I think I beat him. No, I need to go take care of Vari. And 16, 17, nameless, White Mask. Valiant Gargoyles. Where's that? It's not even on the map. Oh, it's Valiant Gargoyles is over here. I haven't done that. Apparently there's one there. One there. I think I did that one. Number 12 is Regal Ancestor. Yeah, I did that one. 13 is Dragonkin Soldier, maybe. Let's go take care of Ari. What's up, Menzi? I don't think anyone created time. I mean, like real time. Humans definitely invented the measurements of time. But time is definitely a thing. Well, at least I think it is. What's up, DK? I think we invented the language of mathematics, but things already had numerical value too. This is new game 4. What do you think of that, Little Queen? For the Bible tells me so. Is that your reasoning? You realize like Genesis doesn't match up with what's found in reality, right? No, Brock Lesnar, right? I don't think the universe created itself. It's just like a really silly thing that theists say when they can't think of any other reason, which is fine. Doesn't mean it's either God or, random, either God or like any other false dichotomy. It could be any number of things. That's my opinion. I used the wrong weapon. I need aero damage. He's gonna kill me. I don't think it was a who that created humans, put it that way. A who? Who created the humans? The humans? Who created the humans? Alright, hold on, I gotta fix my chat. It's all black and white. Hey, who created the humans? I don't think it was the who created the humans. There you go. Carson, what you should do, right, is follow my other account. It's Drivers Mate Podcast. I'm going live on that account later on, and it's going to be a call-in. That's it there. So if you want to be on a call-in later, you should hit that up. Or at least drop a follow. I might try to go live simultaneously while I'm on this live towards the end of it. See if it works that way. Then we can get audio calls while gaming. Like have a nice clean setup. Otherwise it's just going to be separate streams with talking to people. Nah, Menzi, I don't think demons exist, bro. No, see, the thing is, Brock Lesnar, at least you're acknowledging that there are ingredients, right? So if there are ingredients, then what it would take for those ingredients to produce life is just the right conditions, meaning the right environments, you know? So that understanding in itself would lead you to an answer. Luis, I don't provide grounding for logic. I don't think that's necessary to do through a tag type of way. I think logic is axiomatic. It means it's self-justifying. So even if a god did exist, if he is a logical god, then logic is still axiomatic, right? So it doesn't need to be grounded in God itself. Hopefully that's a simple way to explain it. Because people do like to overcomplicate the tag argument. Well overcomplicate the tag argument. Yeah, Carson, that is my stance. Agnostic atheist. Alright, now we can one-on-one. Oh, we got way too many points to be messing about. I need to go use my skill points. He's gonna kill me. There we go. Don't know, Menzi. It's just their belief system, you know? Which goes to show, like, what you believe can have physical effects, right? At least through your psychology. Maybe not just what you believe. Your mental states, your psychological states can have real world effects or like physical effects, if that makes sense. Something like an embarrassment, a feeling of embarrassment can induce blushing or raise in heart tempo, heart rate, sorry, you know. What's up, Jason? How you doing? I vaguely recognize that name, Frank Turek. I vaguely recognize that name. It's possible I've come across him at some point. I rebuke this. Fair play. So what does a cosmic creator entail, Ronald? What is that? Carson, I think when you're talking about morality, right? Morality in other terms is simply ethics. I think there are different frameworks for ethics. So you can have objective ethics and subjective ethics. Nice try. Nice try. What? What was the try? Oh, you're saying that's the book that Frank Turek wrote. Yeah, I hear that, but I think that's a conflation, right? Without even maybe the title might just be like a clickbait title kind of thing, but obviously faith and atheism aren't so not like they don't work together, right? Atheism is literally just a disbelief in God or gods, so it's not a faith position really. It's just a proposition that you don't accept. That's all it really is. That is definitely a clickbait book title for real. Like a pickup bait, a buy bait book title. So you can derive different moral frameworks. One, objective morality could be derived from like a universal good, meaning it's pre-programmed in DNA, based on evolutionary traits. Maybe I'm not explaining that very well. Again, I'm not well versed on meta ethics, but the little that I do understand is that you can derive there's several different ways to arrive at an objective moral stance without there being the need for a supernatural entity. And in the same regards, trying to get a objective moral framework from a god would actually leave you in what's described as divine subjectivity. Then you'd be slapped with like the ancient Euthyphro dilemma. So it's like, yeah. In fact, if you was someone who was advocating for objective morality, you'd be better off going about it in a humanist way than for a theological way. Even if you did believe in God, right? You could a humanist objective morality framework would be more robust than a theological one. What's up, the funny guys? I think humans invented gods. All known gods are human inventions and and are no more than psychological constructs. Right? So that's why I don't believe in them. And I think because humans invented them, they're conceptually flawed, right? So they're fallible. And then a secondary piece of piece of reasoning is that there is no evidence of any of these gods existing outside of the minds of humans. The funny guy, I'm still alive, as I'm sure you can see. I don't think I can give you an answer to that. Well, yeah, R6 they did that too, but humans were creating gods long before like they started creating religions. Religions, as we know them now, come quite late in human history. But ideas of gods go back like thousands and thousands of years, bro. Yeah, like I said, Menzi, I don't know. I'm alive, bro. I can't tell you what happens after I die. If put it this way, depending on your philosophical grounding or your philosophical leanings, if consciousness is an emergent property of the brain, e.g., the mind, right, then in death, what we describe death as is the cessation of all bodily functions. Then the mind would cease, therefore consciousness would cease. So to say you can know what happens after you die would be like incorrect, if that makes sense. But that being said, if that's not true, right, and you're not maybe like a dualist or an idealist or something, and you think spirits exist independently of matter, still wouldn't just take a random living person's word for what happens after they die, seeing as that they've not died yet. That makes sense. I don't think miracles are a thing. Like a standard dictionary definition of a miracle is something that defies natural laws or laws of physics, but it's done in a way through divine intervention. I don't think it's ever been possible to demonstrate the divine intervention part of a miracle. And I think the minute something happens that seems to be outside of the parameters of natural laws or the laws of physics, it then becomes part of the laws of physics, because the laws of physics or the natural laws are described laws, not prescribed laws. So when something seems to break that that description, it now gets added to the possibility. It's like wicked. Yeah, it's because I'm trash, bro. It's because I'm trash, and because the weapon set I've got, I can't parry myself as well. So I'm just, oh no, so I'm just susceptible to getting smashed by these kind of guys. Yeah. Lionel, what's up, bro? I don't think you can just choose to believe something. I think you need to be convinced of it. And just saying, hey, just believe, man. Like, that's not doing a very good job of convincing me. For one, I don't think Jesus is God or has anything to do with a God, so to speak. Put it this way, I don't think there's any evidence to suggest Jesus, if existed as anything more than just a man. So, if I was going to believe in something supernatural, I wouldn't pick Jesus. Oh, mate, switch me up. What do you mean? Nah, I can't parry with the shield because I got Ashes of War on my left trigger. Unless, do you know how to do it? Unless I like time it with L1, but I don't think that will work for some reason. String glitching? No, we're good. Yeah, unless I like see, I've got L2, so my Ashes of War's on L2. Now say I am. What's a guard counter? Nope. Block then hit. Oh, I see what you mean. So it's not gonna be like Dark Souls type of shield kind of thing. So Lionel, what you're gonna have to do is come over to the TikTok side of things. I'm going to be going live on Drivers Mate Podcast TikTok later on. You can call in. You can talk to me. That wouldn't be my job to explain that, Josie. But what I can tell you is we've got a long list of people who have died for things they believe. Doesn't mean the things they believed were true. People are dying for things they believe today in our day and age, so doesn't necessarily mean what they're dying for is true. I'm gonna give it a shot, sucker. Give it a shot. Well, but the thing is, DK, right? I've not got that far into like philosophy yet. I'm like a noob, and I'm not like in an official class. I'm just learning on my own, kind of thing. But I still, at the point I'm at, I don't think there's a way to demonstrate that other people do have a mind. And then that aside, we just suppose other people have a mind based on their genetic makeup, right? Like you said, the philosophical zombie. But in terms of consciousness, right, to me, consciousness itself is like ill defined. It's not something tangible. Vivaswan, I don't personally subscribe to objective morality, but there's definitely ways to arrive at objective morality without gods. You could approach it from an evolutionary biology standpoint, or like some, I don't know. Depends on your philosophical leanings. Just go study meta ethics or something. But yeah, I think morality is quite simply a human invention and wouldn't matter without humans existing. Nah, that didn't really work the way I thought it might. Oh, that one, yeah, I see you, yeah. That was a little sound effect. Got you, bro. Thank you. Cool playthroughs as well. No, TikTok is, I'll put it in the chat. So there's two. The one you can see on the screen now is this one. This is my normal one. And the one I'll probably go live on later is currently called this. But I'm going to change the name. What's up, Newcastle? I'm telling. I don't know what that is. Do you mean the chat that speaks your name? That sound that right, like speaks the words you're writing? I don't have that feature. I don't have that feature. I appreciate you, DK. No, I don't think that would be the case, Ronald. Right? That's just like it's like a bad Pascal's wager type of take. I think the stance that I currently have is the most reasonable stance. It's to not believe in anything that's demonstrably false, and to leave myself open to the possibility of something being there. I think that's the most reasonable stance to have. Where are my points? Look at him, he was pre me this whole time. That doesn't do big damage. Oh, he parried the shit out of me. I lost those points. That's a damn shame. That was like at least like 200,000, maybe even more. Yeah, I think it was more. It's like 300,000 points you just lost there. What do you mean, Tonya? What do you mean? Alright, let's just try not to get distracted this time. What was I gonna do? Alright, I'm gonna take care of Vari, then we're gonna go get Mog's thingy. The spear talisman. Maybe. What does it do? Oh. What did I get here? Oh, I just realised. That makes sense now. Just going the wrong way this whole time. What's up, Chibs? No, so I don't think the definition of free will applies to any human. I don't think any human has the capacity to actualize free will. Like I just said, bro, you can believe something is true. Doesn't mean it is. You can die for it believing it's true. Right? Think about religious martyrs. They unalive, believing things are true. Which most sane people would say that absolutely isn't true. Then you got like Branch Davidans, you got Waco. You got a bunch of different scenarios like that all throughout history. You've got people following apparent messianic figures, apocalyptic preachers who turn out to be wrong. So, has the world ended yet? And there you go. Well, when you say an intentional agent, I don't see how that's connected to free will. My definition of free will, standard one from Oxford Dictionary, is the power to act free from the constraints of necessity or fate at one's own discretion. At one's own discretion is like a secondary definition, but the primary definition is the power to act free from the constraint of necessity or fate. I don't think any human has that capability. And whether you approach it from a scientific point of view or from a philosophical point of view, free will isn't the same thing as choice. Right? You can have agency but still not have free will. Well, the thing is, right, if you're being historically accurate, Jose, right, there's no evidence to suggest Jesus actually rose from the dead. There's no evidence for the miracles. There's no evidence for the divine birth. The best, like, depending on which historian you talk to, they would say the best you could say is that there might have been a Judean priest called Yeshua, who was taught by John the Baptist. Right? But then Yeshua broke away with his apocalyptic teachings, and he had some dissenting ideology on the Romans and Judea itself. Right? Then his disciples, after his passing away, because his disciples would have thought of him as the Messiah coming from a Hebrew teaching, and then his disciples, first being Paul, then John, if I remember correctly, they would have gone on to make up the stories about the magical things of Jesus after the fact. So after Yeshua dies, that's when the stories about miracles and divine births and resurrections start to happen. That's one historical take. But all that being said, the Gospels themselves, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are all anonymous anyway, so we don't know who actually wrote those. That being said, whether or not the disciples actually existed is another question, right? But if they did exist and died for what they believe, it doesn't necessarily mean what they believed was true. It's quite as simple as that. It's not a worthy argumentation. Right? Like I said, you've got many examples of people dying for things they believe to be true. It doesn't matter if it's a lie or not. They believe it to be true. What's up, Anti-Christian? What's up, Black Hebrew? Hebra? Or Hebrew? What do you mean, black? What's up, Manav? Yeah, so I don't see why you're using the word free, right? For instance, within a deterministic framework, you can have what's called compatibilism. I'll give you like a visual analogy. Okay, let's see if we can get our map up quickly. Oh, there's an enemy. That's a bit annoying. I've got to get to a safe space. Bloody hell. There's ominous bloody enemies everywhere. Still can't pull up my map. How? He's got a massive attack area. Anyways, right? So look, as like a visual representation of what I'm trying to say, right? Within this game, this is what's called an open world sandbox, right? The map is pretty damn big. Okay, there's so many different places you can go. So it would appear that this map would be like, for analogy purposes, this map is a representation of the real world, Earth itself, right? So I can go anywhere I want near enough, right, within this map. But the parameters of where I can go are already predefined, meaning predetermined, okay? I can make almost, well, maybe even you could argue an unlimited amount of choices based on combining things, right? I can combine all different types of weapons, all different types of armors, because of the amounts of different individual items I can combine. I can have a unique set of choices and a unique set of armors, right? But the amount of armors and types of weapons are all pre-programmed and predefined, right? So this NPC who has no idea that I'm controlling it within this world, which is, a physical representation of our world, he has many, many choices, right? Almost unlimited amount of choices, but all of his choices are predetermined. Whether I decide to loll about and not go to the actual end of the game or not makes no difference, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. But the fact that the game is pre-coded and the parameters are already determined decides what this tarnished can and cannot do, right? Although he has all of these choices, he has many, many choices. Like I can jump here, I can jump there, like at my own free choice, right? As you put it. But it doesn't mean he isn't predestined to already be at the start of the game. His character was coded, the map was coded, right? What he can and can't do was coded. And if we take into consideration causality on a human from a human perspective, there's always going to be something that precedes or antecedes my actions, okay? And my actions are going to have an effect. So by those standards too, everything would be predetermined. But hey, all of that analogy, as conflated as it might have been, was simply just to demonstrate what you think of as free will isn't the same thing as choice. Right? You can have plenty choices, but your life, the material physical world you live in, is also predetermined. Right? So it's like it's decided already. But you can make plenty of choices within the framework of determinism, but you just don't have free will. That's the only thing. In short, what free will might look like as a short, sweet example is the ability to act uninfluenced by anything else. That is not the same thing as making any choice you want. Okay. Mendino, I think memory is a function of the human brain, meaning if we damage the hippocampus, everything that makes you, like an individual, of course, outside of a biological level, will change. So in simple terms, if we damage your brain, we damage your mind, right? So if we damage your memory centers, that holds all the information about you as a person. Now you have genetic memory, but genetic memory isn't necessarily the same thing as like psychological memory. So memory wouldn't be a good argument for God, right? Because that's explicitly tied to your brain, which is physical. And personally, I don't think consciousness would be a good argument for God either, because consciousness is ill-defined. It's hardly understood. There's lots of study going on about it, but it's one of those things that's not pinned down beyond the beyond the ability to experience and awareness, right? So the ability to experience and awareness is pretty damn vague, right? So I don't think either of those would be good arguments for God. No, I don't think I would have to explain that out, Josie. Right? That's just like a massive assumption. Like, just because, so say someone bursts into the room today, right, into our chat room and says, fairies invented absolutely everything in the universe, right? and they're 100% certain of it. Just because we disagree with that person and say, actually, no, fairies didn't invent everything in the universe, it doesn't mean we have to offer a competing hypothesis for everything in the universe. We just simply don't agree with the hypothesis this person has given us because there's not enough evidence to suggest it's true, okay? You don't have to offer a competing hypothesis for where everything comes from, you know? Oh no, I closed the application. Nope, I didn't do that. Switch off the controller. Cool. Alright, so we want Vari. Sorry, chat. Black Hebrew. So I would ask you to go and look at the definition of free will. Right? As I understand it, it's the power to act free from the constraints of necessity or fate. Right? Necessity implies at least some link to causality. Same thing as fate. Okay, so when a full actualized within free will and actualized free will, right? Within the parameters of our current understanding, meaning it's not, you're not just going to sprout wings and fly away. You're not going to step outside of the time, right? But if we were to acknowledge those things, right, and say, all right, within the physical frameworks that we do have, free will would be the power to act uninfluenced by anything else. Right? That's a simple definition of it. But if you wanted to go like full on, only something supernatural or God would have the power of free will, because it could break with causality. Right? It could do something outside of the parameters of time. It could do something completely uninfluenced by any antecedent thought. Okay? But you as a human don't have that capacity. You can only make choices within a predetermined framework. E.g., you're constrained by time, you're constrained by matter, you're constrained by space, right? You're constrained by genetics, biology, all these kinds of things, psychology, environment, right? Influence. All of these things pertain to you as an individual human. So you wouldn't be able to express free will like fully based on that definition. But if you think free will is just choice, then I'm sorry to say you're wrong. Right? Choice is, you can have choice within determinism, right? But choice isn't the same thing as free will. It's not synonymous. Yeah, it's not my job to explain your story. For W, it's not my job to explain your story. What's up, Vikram? Do you know I've heard the name, but I don't know too much about it. You're more than welcome to tell me about it. We got a guy from India that comes in the chat sometimes. His name is Wise now. He told me a bit about it before, but I can't remember all the deets on it. No, like bro, I don't know how else to explain this, right? You can have choices, like an almost infinite amount of choices within determinism. It doesn't equate to free will. Where's Varu? But yeah, where's the river going? Yeah, I wouldn't disagree that there is natural beauty on Earth, but natural beauty doesn't just, doesn't imply a creator or a god. The very fact that you're saying it's natural is the point. It occurs naturally. But another way to say it can occur uninfluenced by a mind with agency. Oh, these guys have killed me. These little alien looking things. I mean, it is interesting. I like what happens after you pass away is definitely of great interest to all humans, all life really, because it's a great unknown, right? But that same great unknown issue is one of the reasons that humans invented gods in the first place, using a hyperactive agency detection device. It was an attempt to fill in an unknown, which represented a fear and a threat to survival with information to make it a known, okay? But since we're all alive currently, what happens in death is unknown still, right? It's an It's an uncharted parameter, if you will. But again, if you're like coming at it from a physicalist point of view, then there is nothing after death from a human body perspective. But if you're maybe an idealist or I don't know, some kind of spiritual kind of thinking person, then maybe you think there is something after death. But the only problem is how would one know while you're alive? That's the only thing. Right? What's up, Nate? Thanks for a like. I don't know what that is, Burger. Yeah, but like I said, Josie, right? All of those things are within Christian canon, bro. And you'd be surprised to know how much of those things were added in after the fact, influenced by thinkers like Augustine and who like early church fathers as well. There's a lot of people who had input into what you think of as modern day Christianity. The problem that Christianity had in well from the New Testament on was that it tried to align events in the religious canon to actual historical events, but it falls to bits when you start actually looking for historical evidence of the magical stuff. Okay, so like I said, oh actually we killed Viri, innit? We don't even need to be here. Right, let's go see if we can get that. Now they said Mog's thing would be in the same tower. Oh, you get lots of power from that, but the thing is, right? Whether they made it up or not, they would have probably believed that Jesus was the Messiah anyway. Right? That's the thing. And every day with the why would people die for a lie? There's such low tier theist arguments. Should I just give you a list of people who have died for a lie? Things that they believed were absolutely true. Would that make you would that put your mind at ease of why people die for lies? All right. Jonestown, 1978, 900 people, 900 plus followers of Jim Jones drank poison-laced punch in a mass unalivement. Jones claimed he was a, check this out, prophet and misled his people with lies about religion, government persecution and salvation. Many died believing a completely false, fabricated belief system. Heaven's Gate, 1997, 39 unalivements. They believed that a UFO hidden behind Halley Bopp comet would take their souls to a higher plane. Oh, look, it is there. Wow. They were twins then. Crazy. I wonder what that even does. No. Sorry about that. What was I saying? So yeah, Heaven's Gate, 1997. Their leader, Marshall Applewhite, claimed divine authority and convinced his followers to unalive themselves. A completely false cosmology, clearly a lie or delusion. So this is all pertaining to your idea of disciples dying about something they believed in. Right? Branch Davidans, Waco, 1993, 76 unalivements. They were led by a guy called David Koresh, who claimed to be a final prophet. They died in a standoff with the FBI while many refused to surrender. Koresh's apocalyptic teachings, if you don't know what apocalyptic means, it means the guy was teaching about the world ending, like the end of the world, you know? The same kind of thing as Jesus. Uh, so Koresh's apocalyptic teachings and messianic identity. A messianic identity is like a lone, like a singular savior figure. Same thing as Jesus. Okay. So Koresh's apocalyptic teachings and messianic identity were demonstrably false. Then you got religious martyrs, people who unalive themselves for their religious ideas. All that to say, whoever was asking me that, 4W and the person before, people clearly die behind things that they believe. Whether what they believe is true or not makes no difference to the fact that they died for it. What's up, old young? Slime. I don't think a supernatural entity is necessary to ground anything. I think logic itself is axiomatic. I think morality is a societal construct. So yeah, and I think maths is just a language we invented to describe or measure the universe, measure our physical reality. So that would be my answer to that. It suck. Let's see what it does. There's one that was meant to collect grants a blessing of blood to phantoms. What the hell is a phantom? Grants a blessing of blood imparts a phantom great rune upon successful invasions. Mogul. Oh, they are twins, yeah. Their great runes are naturally similar, but Mog's rune is soaked in accursed blood from his devout love. For the wretched buyer that he was born into from below the earth. Okay, cool. Not quite sure what that's supposed to do. Greatly raises maximum HP. Should we choose that? Choose Radans. I don't even use these things. I die too often for them to be effective. Alright, so we need to do the underground here apparently, and we need to... No, that's what we need to do. Let's go start her quest line quickly. We gotta talk to Gowry, that dude there. Get Millicent. Yeah, I don't think love is a good argument for God. I think love is also quite ill-defined. The only, put it this way, across cultures, different cultures have different ideas of love, right? Love is obviously a concept, but the only universal thing about love is the chemical reactions on a biological level that correspond to the feeling or the emotion of love. That'd be like norepinephrine, oxytocin, adrenaline, serotonin. These are chemicals that release in your body based on the stimuli. So they would be only universal things assigned to a feeling or a concept you call love. Right? But within the concept of love, there are different concepts. You know, you've got like agape love, which is like sacrificial. You've got brotherly love, or like relational love. You've got sensual love. You know, you've got like communal love, or like I don't know what the right term is. But within the concept of love, there are other concepts. You know, so based on language, based on culture, that shows up differently. So how could this human concept be a proof of God? Do you know? That's what I would argue. Thing is, Armando, right? I don't think, put it this way, even if you were to still believe in a God, there still isn't good enough reason to believe a creationist myth. Creationist myths clearly are wrong. They don't align with what's found in reality. So even if you did believe in a God, there's not enough reason to believe in a creationist myth. At least not the way it's reported.
It's hidden somewhere in the deep scarlet swamp of Aeonia. Then I will tell you, as promised, the secret of the town.
You tell me, Black Hebrew. You think demons exist then, obviously? Or else, you know, no demons, no exorcism, right?
It's hidden somewhere in the deep scarlet swamp.
I think humans invented God for three main reasons. One is for explanatory power, to explain things they don't understand. Early humans, when evolving and developing, when their minds were developing, their capacity to think, they would have used something that me and you still have today called a hyperactive agency detection device, or hypersensitive agency detection device. So say like my computer just randomly bugged out and it started going mad haywire, right? I'd be like, wow, right? That like it was a ghost, or like, you know, it done that with intention. So I'd assign intention to the event, if that makes sense. Better example is an early human would have seen something all striking, right? Like lightning, a storm, and they would have said, I don't understand what that is. I have a mind, but I don't understand that. Therefore, there must be a mind higher than mine who either understands that or is responsible for that. That's what hyperactive agency detection is, okay? It's the same thing like early humans would have been in a jungle or something and seen a bush rustle, and they would have been like, wait, there's an animal, there's a predator in that bush, and they wouldn't have waited around to find out. They would have just said, right, the fact that that bush is rustling, there's an agent behind the bush rustling. So that's reason one. Humans would have assigned agency to things they don't understand. And over time, LORE, law, would have been built around that event, and they would have deified that into a god through culture, through anthropology. Reason two is for psychological comfort, right? To give certainty where there's uncertainty around existential questions. Now we're talking about human development past the primitive stage, right? So they would have invented creator gods, gods of love, gods of war, gods of knowledge, right? Gods of death, to give explanations to things they didn't understand. Okay, that was psychological. Not just didn't understand, but like the psychological needs for the certainty. Okay, And reason three is for societal cohesion. Now we're moving into agriculture, into polis, into civilization. So they start to develop gods that directly mirror human nature. Like Old Young said, anthropomorphic. So you get hierarchies of pantheons, like the Greek pantheon, the Norse pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, the Sumerian pantheon, the East Asia, like Amaterasu and all of those. They start to get pantheons, and they divide up society into what was described as CULTs, religions. So you start to get your early formations of religions, temples, right? But they're designed for societal cohesion, okay, to give you things like moral arbiters. Yeah. So the three reasons gods would have been invented in the past is one, assigning agency to things they don't understand, two, psychological needs, and three, for societal cohesion. But yeah, if you was to look across cultures and look at different gods and their makeups, for instance, Western Europe, which is modern day Britain, their god would have been called, one of their gods, because they had many actually different tribal gods, one of them would have been called Brigid, or a goddess of smithing, poetry, and healing. An ancient Greek god would have been called Zeus, father of gods, and a storm god. Ra, Northern Africa, a sun god and creator god. Right? So as you go across cultures, you see the different offerings that they've given to create gods, to god creations, put that way. But not only did they offer ideas of gods historically, humans have offered conceptual frameworks of gods, or theism. So you get monotheism, which is one all-powerful god, which is quite late in human history. You get polytheism, which is many gods, which is like we were talking about pantheons. Then you get pantheism, which means God is all, God is everything. You know, it'd be like not fully pagan beliefs, but more like philosophical views. People would be like half spiritual and say God is energy, God is nature. Right? That's kind of what pantheism is. Right? The pantheism. And then panentheism, which is similar, but it says God is the universe, but God is beyond the universe. Then you've got deism, which says there's a non-intervening creator God. So it's like a God that makes stuff and then just doesn't interact with the stuff that he makes. Then you've got a dualist God, which is two opposing cosmic forces. That'd be like light versus dark, sun versus moon, good versus evil. Then you've got animism, which is spirits that inhabit nature. Right? So take on, be like a Native American kind of indigenous ideas of God, sort of spirits and stuff. But yeah, anyways, all across time, all across cultures, there's never been one universal idea of a God that's been found. They've always been very unique and particular to the culture that invents them. That being said, I'm justified in calling them an invention because there's not independent evidence to suggest they exist outside of the invention. When did that get there? I wasn't there before. When did that get there? It's new. Alright, sorry chat. Someone asked me to explain something, so I went off on a tangent. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Chibs. The boogeyman, I don't make claims about where the universe comes from. I'm agnostic to the beginning of the universe. Oh, this is new. I've never had this fight before. Knocks the sorceress and knocks the monk. This is the first time I'm seeing them. Do you know how many times I've played this game? Maybe there must be like a specific trigger point for him. I don't even know if they're on my boss map. Or maybe this is just a different area than I think it is. I think that's the case. Maybe I just went a different direction. No, I personally think immaterial things exist. Immaterial things being like logic, maths. Well, exist may not be the right word because that's kind of like yeah, let's not get too off into the deep end. But yeah, I think there are immaterial things. For instance, I think I have a mind. Right? That's not necessarily a material thing, although it's from a physicalist point of view, it's the product of my brain. It's still not a material thing itself. To me, anyways. All right, we're getting into a weird place. So yeah, just forget what I just said. I'm not someone that's like committed to materialism only. I'm open to the possibility that there are things outside of the material, just in simple terms. What do you mean that way? That's the face from Cowboy Bebop, isn't it? No, it's not staying ignorant, right? It's the problem is this. What I found, right, as like a noob, a non-scientist, a non-philosopher, a non-theologian, is the more you learn, is the more you know that you don't know anything for certain. So to have certain takes, like speak with certainty about things doesn't really make sense. So on the question of where the universe comes from, if cosmologists, scientists, physicists don't know for certain and they spend their whole life studying these things, how can me, a non-physicist, uh, come and say for certain how the universe comes about when, you know? And then as a non-philosopher and a non-physicist again, how can I make certain statements about things like causality when people who spend their whole life studying it question the idea of causality in the first place? Right? So that's what I mean by saying I'm agnostic. A creationist mythos would be devised for explanatory power, but religion has long lost that what would be described as sacerdotal kind of power. Okay, they lost that to natural philosophy hundreds of years ago when they started to develop what's now called the natural sciences. So religion's claims about how things come about are completely archaic in terms of what we know now. Right? And like I just said, if the people who spent their life studying these things don't speak with certainty about it, who the hell am I to speak with certainty about it? Or you for that matter? I didn't tell you it could be eternal. See, this is the problem with you guys, right? It's like you hear what you want to hear. I told you I'm agnostic, meaning I don't know. But if we wanted to actually discuss models that we can like point to, I would discuss it with you. But I'm telling you, I don't make certain claims about where the universe comes, how it comes about. There's not much more to it than that. Yeah, but I think you're getting caught up on the meta chibs, right? If you're conceding that you can have choice within determinism, what difference does it make the type of choice you can have? Right? It's still determined, still within the framework of determinism. So you've conceded determinism already. So why get caught up into it? I've already told you choice is synonymous with free will. So what difference kind of choice? Like, what difference would it make? There are lots of things, Delta, that aren't explained, and I think that's the biggest problem people have. They're not willing to say I don't know. They want to be able to say I know for certain, or the Bible tells me so, or or my study group tells me so, instead of just saying, you know what, I don't know, right? Maybe I'll find out. Right? They have a problem with accepting that they don't know things. Alright, something I got to do to activate her quest line. Can't remember what it was. I need to give her something to fix her arm. Those little shrimp are so annoying. Spider shrimps. Alright, thanks for following, Dara.
If you are wise, you will leave immediately. My flesh writhes with scarlet rot. If you my flesh writhes.
Alright, I need to do a Google. Can't remember how to set this quest line. Millicent. Tell Millicent you must progress her quest line by finding and giving her Valkyrie's prosthesis. Then later, where's Valkyrie's prosthesis? I already have that though, don't I? I am Keo, found in the chest guarded by a clean rot knight in the northwest edge of Shaded Castle. Just show me on the map, dude. Give me ads and videos and just show me on the map. Where to find it? Found in the chest or in the room. The Shaded Castle. I've already done that. So I should have the armor already. Patches. Just before the boss door. The Shaded Castle Spirit. Patches is such a prat. I should already have that arm. I think I do have the armor already. It's something else that I need to do on the quest line then. I'm sure it will speak to that guy. Yeah, there's the arm there.
If you are wise, see my flesh If you are wise, my flesh
Alright, let's sit down. Let's go talk to the guy in the shack again. Millicent quest. I'm sorry, chat. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get the walkthrough. Okay, before heading to the path to rescue Millicent, return to the gallery to receive the unalloyed golden needle. Now repaired. He will direct you. Alright, yeah. There's something he requests me to do. I can't remember what it was, but he tells me to go and fight some swampy things. I just didn't pay attention to what he said. Alright, sorry chat. What are we saying then? Nope, that's not true, Jose. Right? That's not even true. But look, for the sake of argument, let's say the Big Bang was the beginning. What's the argument you're actually making? So what would how would that help your point? You gotta be trolling, Trump. You gotta be trolling. Two planets smashed together, one became the Earth, the other became the Moon. Wait, you saying that's a fact? That's close to the story. But maybe you're talking about something else. The Moon definitely, yeah. Well, yeah, it's not something hit the Earth and that formed the Moon.
You must find the unalloyed gold needle. It's hidden somewhere in the deep scarlet swamp of Aeonia. Then I will tell you, as promised, the secret of the town of
Alright, golden needle, Ionia. Unalloyed needle, where to find it? It's in this little... Yeah, that's what it was. You need to go over there. Where exactly it is, I can't say. Seems like it's night time. No, that's just your assertions, Jose, right? Again, your biblical idea of God isn't the same thing as an uncaused cause. Right? Reasoning to an uncaused cause doesn't bring an uncaused cause into being a fact, meaning it doesn't make it exist. But you could reason if causality is a thing, like I said, which is dubious currently. Yeah, then there might be an uncaused cause, right? But an uncaused cause isn't synonymous with God. So as for the ideas of there being a mind with agency that lives outside of time and matter and space, that produces time, matter, and space, these are large assumptions at the minimums, right? That's being kind about it. There's no put it this way, it's almost impossible to falsify if that is the case. And even through reasoning, it might not be the case either. Yeah, so the watchmaker's argument is like hundreds of years old, and it fails for one obvious reason. Right? We know humans exist. We know humans create things. You don't know if a god exists, and you don't know if a god's capable of creating anything. And so just like get that out of your mind. As a Christian, that's not a good argument to make for a god. So it's really low level. Yeah, I already know where you're going, bro. Like I just said, you're making a flawed analogy. It's called a habit of thought. And again, another problem you're running into, Jose or Jose, right, is that you're saying all of this complexity in the universe needs an explanation, yet you would be willing to say the God you're talking about doesn't need a complex explanation, it's just a brute fact. Right? And the minute you fall on that sword of being a brute fact is the minute you accept that the universe itself could also be a brute fact. Okay? But like I said, even if I was to grant you the Big Bang being the beginning, which it's not, it still wouldn't prove that your God exists. It's just lots of post hoc rationalization for an archaic mythos that you're doing. What do you mean by that, Chibs? Nah, I'm not sure I know what that is by that name, Wicked. Alright, let's lock in quickly. There's a needle somewhere. Oh, he's a boss. Cha. Oh, he don't give a damn. He said, attack me. Ah, he's got ghosts. Drop. Damn it, Torrent. I'm in the thick of it. Oh. He just hit me with his flag. Come on, Commando. Oh snap, I'm dead. Right, I've never quite clocked the roll in this Elden Ring. Like, in comparison to the Dark Souls, the roll is well off. What the freak? Everybody died. Oh, that was it there. Golden Needle. Cool. Quest line can begin. Yeah, I understand that part, Boogeyman. But I'm saying, even though that is a fact, that doesn't bridge to any one concept of a god being responsible for it. And even yeah, let's not get too deep into it, but yeah, your god would have to abide by something called divine simplicity too, right? Which is another problem. Yeah, space game, bro. Seric, that's not true, bro. Seric, who the hell told you that was even true? That is not even part of Christian canon. Jesus didn't come down to. Who told you that's true, bro? That has nothing to do with the Bible. Like nowhere in the Bible does it say that. Nah, I mean you're more than welcome to expand the boogeyman if you want, but I'm fairly certain that your idea of God doesn't have great enough. Well, not you personally, but the idea of God doesn't have great enough explanatory power to account for everything about the universe or the inception of the universe itself. Nowhere in theology has there been a significant explanation of that. At least anything that's been useful to actually understanding the universe. But I might be wrong. Yeah, I already told you this. An uncaused cause or something. An uncaused cause is not synonymous with what you describe as a god. Right? It could be an abstract set of governing principles. But that being said, a necessary existence is something you're defining, right? You're defining God into being necessary, right? But you cannot demonstrate that, and you can also not falsify that. So, in terms of like tangible explanations, it's out of the window, right? It wouldn't be scientifically verifiable. It'd be out of the window. This would all be so what the best thing we would have to acknowledge here, Boogie, right, is that you're not talking about a biblical God. So let's put a biblical God to one side. You're more pointing to a philosophical concept, right, that's being used as a figure in a framework. So within the framework, we can reason to things as possibilities, right? We could say it's likely that there is a necessary cause, right, or an uncaused cause. It's likely, but that doesn't bring that reasoning into existence as point of fact. So we've acknowledged that we're not talking about biblical God because that does things like interacts with human affairs. In order to interact with human affairs, you have to be within the flow of time. Whether you're just defining that flow of time simply based on entropy or not, right? You still have to interact with time, so you can't be outside of time and interact with time. So you're obviously not talking about the biblical God. So you're talking about some kind of metaphysic or physical or philosophical representation of a God, air quotations, right? Because it's not a necessary being, isn't actually a thing. An uncaused cause is a possibility, but it's not defined as a God. Okay, so just so we're on the same track here. Do you want to explain why? Do you want to explain why? No, it's the problem is, right. You're right, Malik. There are rules and constraints on a god, but it's not me who put them there, right? It's the person who invents the god and says and defines the god who puts the rules and the constraints on the god, right? So if someone devises a god and says it's omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, and that it's outside of time, but it interacts with time, they're the ones putting the constraints on the god by their own conception of the god, right? Not me. I'm saying this was what would be expected of the god that you're describing, right? This is why I say it's a catch-22. The more you describe it, or you define it, is the less likely it is to show up in that capacity. The less you define it is the more synonymous it is with non-existent, right? Like this metaphysical framework we're discussing on the left. Okay. The metaphysical framework, or in simpler terms, right? An uncaused cause isn't the same thing as a biblical God, right? And reasoning to an uncaused cause, if a causal chain is actually a thing, which is up for dispute, doesn't bring it into existence just by reasoning to it. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. What do you mean, Garrett? Too many work calls? What's happening? I mean, it's fun to hold that belief, Kevin, but it's another thing to demonstrate, isn't it? That's all I'm saying.
You found as promised. I go on. Now, well, I say so. True artisan. Can you give me some time for this as well?
Oh my. Hey, that shouldn't count as me though. That shouldn't count as my L. No, that shouldn't count as my L, bro. That was the dog that killed it. That's not fair. He did respawn though, so it should be okay. He respawned once before in this playthrough, so hopefully it's okay. No, I don't refuse to add anyone, alright? Later on I'm going to be doing a stream on Drivers Mate Podcast on TikTok, so hit that, give it a follow, and you'll be able to come and speak to me. I was thinking about doing it inside of the same stream, but it might damage the stream quality. This is the account right here. Give that a follow. No, that's nonsensical, bro. If God creates, then God is also bound by time, bro. This is what I'm saying to you. These are kinds of things. These are problems your definition of God creates for itself. These are problems your definition of God creates for itself. You're thinking of time as like a distinct substance that you can hold in your hand. No, it's not how time works, and there's different theories of time at that. You can't be outside of time and create, right? Time is a necessary prerequisite for creation, right? Does that make sense? So the minute, like, if a god is moving in any way, right? If there's a change that happens in a god, then time is at play, right? Time is a description of change or temporal existence, if you will. Like, you was here, then you're there, right? And the difference between you being here and being there is time, right? The difference of you having this state and another state is time, okay? So creation needs time. So you can't be outside of time and create time. It's not consistent.
If you are wise, you will leave immediately. Flesh.
No, I needed more on the quest line. Hopefully he's respawned. Didn't get to finish hearing what he had to say. Who's Martin Cooper, bro? I've already told you, I don't make claims about where the universe comes from or how it comes about. Right? They're things I simply don't know. And another point of view is, you can never have a true model of the universe while being a constituent of it, right? The Big Bang isn't something that's directly experienceable and observable, right? It's based on calculations. Okay. So there's different models for the Big Bang. A lot of people don't realize that, right? There's a singularity model, there's the Big Bounce and Big Crunch model, right? I think ekpyrotic is the same as Big Bounce, Big Crunch, but I'll give you the models of the Big Bang. There are different ideas about the Big Bang itself, and the Big Bang describes what's called our local universe, not necessarily the whole encompassing thing. And the Big Bang doesn't also state that there's a T0, meaning the beginning of all things. It just doesn't say that. A lot of people don't look into it close enough. So you've got standard cosmological, which is lambda, right? The current most precise version, which combines general relativity, cosmic inflation, dark matter, dark energy. Then you've got expansion and evolution. The model posits that the universe expanded, its temperature decreased, allowing subatomic particles to form, eventually creating atoms, stars, and galaxies. Then you've got the initial singularity, extrapolating the model backward in time. Extrapolating the model backward in time points to a state of infinite density known as the singularity. However, this is considered a limitation of current theories, suggesting that new physics is needed to describe the earliest moments. Cosmic inflation, an early rapid exponential expansion of the universe that precedes the standard hot Big Bang phase. Big Bang phase. Explaining the uniformity and flatness of the cosmos. Alternative related models, while the hot Big Bang is the standard, other models have been proposed to address questions about singularity, including cyclical models, and those suggest alternatives to inflation. So the ekpyrotic model proposes that the Big Bang was not the beginning of time, but a bounce caused by a collision of two three-dimensional branes. That's BRANES. They stand for universes, essentially, with higher dimensional space. It is a string theory inspired. It is a string theory inspired alternative to standard inflation that solves cosmological puzzles through a slow contraction phase rather than a rapid expansion, right? So in short, it's a big bounce, big crunch. But there are other models, okay? That's all I'm trying to explain to you. No, the Big Bang isn't a Catholic theory. Yes, the guy who worked on it was a Catholic priest, but he explicitly told the Catholics, e.g. the Pope and the Church, not to use his theory as part of their claim to fame. Do some research before you say stupid shit. Yes, the guy who worked on the Big Bang theory was a Catholic priest, but he became a Catholic priest after the research, okay? But yeah, he himself explicitly told the church to stop saying the dumb shit that you're saying, right? So think about that. Yeah, well, I think I might be wrong about him becoming a priest after the fact, but yeah, we could dig deeper into that if you really want. But just the fact that he himself is a Catholic doesn't prove that the Big Bang has anything to do with God. Just really terrible reasoning. It's not a Catholic theory. I literally just explained that, right? People have this weird idea that they're like, oh, we can just credit a religion with the invention of its followers. No, we don't do that, right? Islam might do that, but most other religions don't do that, okay? What? Do you know what? I'm gonna let you live, Black Hebrew, right? You've already got some issues that you're dealing with, some identity crisis, so it's not surprised that you would think that. So, okay. This probably isn't the biggest issue on your table at the minute, but okay, I will let you live.
As a god. Indeed. The poor girl. She never wished for any of this.
Like I said, Josie, right? Theology doesn't have better explanatory power than natural sciences, right? And if the natural sciences don't speak with 100% certainty, you have no right to, since your theory is thousands of years older and less substantiated than the current understanding, okay? Causality, as we know it, isn't even a law of the universe, right? So it's possible that things can happen simultaneously, right? There's actually a thing called causal inference, the problem of causal inference. Okay, so all of that is taken into consideration. I am not making any claims about the universe. I've said this explicitly many times. Right? Us discussing the universe has nothing to do with humans inventing God. Right? That is you trying to cling on to some explanatory power to keep your faith alive. But your faith does not have the same explanatory power as cosmology or science or astrophysics or physics or quantum physics and mechanics. Your faith does not have that explanatory power. So why are you talking about the beginning of the universe as a believer? You don't know shit, respectfully. Now, as like an individual who studies outside of your faith, then you may have a point to argue about. But arguing about the beginning of the universe for your faith is stupidity, right? The realm of religion is to discuss the meaning of life, not explain where the universe comes from. Genesis is clearly false, right? It's metaphoric, it's allegoric. In fact, they thought it was true until we started to find things about the earth that disproves it. The realm of religion is to express the meaning of life, right? To give meaning to life, not explain where the universe comes from. When they were talking about the Abrahamic faiths were talking about Genesis, or the Israelites, early Israelites, the Sumerians, the Mesopotamians, Akkadians, Babylonians, etc. Right? They did not have the knowledge of the universe or the natural world that we have now. They didn't have even a smidgen of what we know now. Okay, so you talking about it from their point of view in 2026 is asinine. Right? What you're doing is engaging in post hoc rationalizations, borrowing from science, borrowing from philosophy to bolster your theology. But your theology on its own does not have the explanatory capacity to explain where and how the universe comes about, right? Where it comes from or how it comes about. It never has.
So again, you try to talk to me about where the universe comes from is you pivoting away from the fact that humans invented God, because you don't have a substantial piece of proof to prove your God. So you're talking about the universe as if it's a proof of your God, when you can't even explain the universe. You don't even know what it is. So you're like digging yourself a hole, man. If you're gonna go and be a scientist, be a scientist, be a cosmologist. If you're gonna be a philosopher, be a philosopher. But don't think you can just take philosophical ideas and scientific research and use it to bolster your ancient theological ideals and beliefs. It's gonna fall apart. You don't have that explanatory capacity in religion. So just talk about the meaning of what you believe things are. Stop trying to use science, like stop trying to reinterpret scientific data through a theological lens. It's so lame. It's like low level apologetics. Just talk about what you believe, bro. It's like, seriously. Just talk about what you believe. It's so jarring. Not at any point do I make a claim about where the universe comes from, where life comes from. I don't do that. It's just you looking for a straw man to argue with because you ain't got proof that your God exists. I disagree, Ghostface, right? I don't see the reason. Put it this way, complexity doesn't imply creation, quite simply. If anything, complexity points to adaptation over time, right? Mechanisms being added to a biological system to make sure it ensures survival, simply put. Right? Complexity actually points to evolution, not creation. Okay? No. It's like just wait. Let me remember the type of people I'm talking to, okay? Alright, cool. It's okay that you think everything needs a creator, but just because you think that doesn't mean it's true. Okay? It's called a habit of thinking, right? Not a habit of thought. What's up, Swag? How you doing? This is a gospel, bro. We're in a church right now. It's the gospel of Miyazaki. It's the book of Miyazaki. All turn to page 108. Verse whatever. Like I said, right, it's not my job to explain your stories, right? If you're supposed to be making an argument for a god or something, and then you ask me to explain your story, right, you're doing something wrong. It's like, can you explain my story? No, it's your story. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how is that my job in any way? Right? Can you explain my story? It doesn't matter what story it is, right? That's your job. Yes, you're saying, how do you explain? This is something you're supposed to explain, right? It's your argument. It's not something I'm supposed to explain. Now, if you're asking me for my personal opinions about things, I can give them at my own discretion, right? But it's not like it doesn't have to do with anything. Can you explain my story? What do you mean? Have you verified your story? Have you checked the sources of your story first before you tell me to explain your story? What do you... Well, how do you explain miracle? How do you explain demons? Like, bro, that's your job to do that, and then to explain to me why I should take it on as a fact. Right? It's your job to explain it. You're the one who believes it. What do you mean? All right. So, anyways, let's finish our quest line. Did I give her the arm?
My apologies. Everything, even the night, not that I could ever truly, but
Let's give her the arm.
I'm with the needle, my destiny. It's all thanks to you. My name is Millicent. I'm with the needle buried in my flesh. My destiny.
We saved her. Well, she's gonna die anyways, but saved her temporarily. All right, can we get back to the main point of humans inventing gods, right? So I'm saying humans invented gods. All known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If you've got any evidence to suggest they do in fact exist independently of the mind, I want to see it. I want to hear it. If you've got a convincing argument, I want to hear it. Please stop asking me to explain how your mother's toe healed that time when someone prayed for it. Alright, stop asking me shit like that. It's not a sensible thing to ask. Like, how would you explain? Like, what do you mean? Is there any proof that even happened? So because it didn't happen. This is what I'm saying to you, right? You're talking about fantasy things. You're talking about fantasy. If you really wanted my opinion on something, just ask, right? And I'll give you my opinion on it. But in terms of explaining a fantasy, that in terms of explaining something that hasn't been proven, right? I don't think I have any more explanatory power over that than you do, but I can give it a shot, right? If we're talking about explaining fantasy things, and maybe someone's imagination, perhaps. Bro, there's not a demon on camera. If you think exorcisms are real, you don't understand psychology. You don't understand humans, right? But again, you're a black Hebrew. You don't even understand yourself. So like, what do you want me to do here? Like what are we doing here? Like, you don't even understand yourself, bro. Like, what are we doing here? Give me your definition of a demon, right? Are you talking about like King James type demons, or like you talk about like ghosts and ghouls and shit? What are you talking about? No, I don't look up strange things on the internet, bro. That's how you get on government lists. Put it this way, Jose, right? Or sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, right? But from the standard definition of what a miracle is supposed to be, I haven't got good reason to think that they're possible. Okay? In simple terms, I've not got good enough reason to think a miracle is possible, in terms of it being a divine intervention. No, I don't want to see apparently a demon on camera from a body cam of a police officer. Like, just think about what you're saying, right? Define what a demon is. Like, what are you saying? How much points is that? Nah, it's not even close. It's worth giving it a shot though. And like, put it like this, right? Just like just for the sake of the conversation, even if I was to grant that your demons exist, it still doesn't prove that a god exists. Do you realize that, right? Fam, possessions don't happen, right? This is the problem with science denial. This is why people get like autism and you try to pray it away, or do like they have a epileptic fit and you call it a demon possession, right? Guys are living archaically. It's too much superstition. You see the fact, right? This is a very good point actually. The fact that you're pointing at this thing and calling it a demon is exactly how hyperactive agency detection works, right? You're assigning agency to something that you don't understand. Okay, this is a perfect example of it. When I tell you how humans invented early gods using hyperactive agency detection device, you're doing the same thing for a demon. Okay, see this guy fighting? This is a demon. You see where he exists in the game. Right, so what you're doing, your idea of like spirits and ghosts and demons, that is exactly the hyperactive agency detection device in action. So I'm glad you brought it up. The boogeyman, I think prophecy is a prediction, right? And I think humans are capable of making really accurate predictions, right, down to the last millisecond of whatever it is, given enough parameters, enough knowledge, access to stuff like human psychology, trend lines throughout history, you can make excellent predictions. Prophecies are predictions. But if you're going to take prophecy to be a proof of God, then why don't we take Nostradamus to be a proof of God, as like a prophet of God? Because some people interpret Nostradamus's predictions to have come true, right? Just like people interpret biblical predictions to have come true. So why don't we take Nostradamus as a prophet of God? Look again, he can't explain my story. It's not my job to explain your stories, brother. He can't explain this story I just came up with. Look. It's like, bro, relax. I didn't tell you was Haitian. What's wrong with being Haitian, though? Should be proud to be Haitian, bro. It's the first successful slave rebellion in history. Should be very proud to be a Haitian. Haitians don't. Do you know what? Actually, I think it's actually beneficial for someone like you to believe that Haitians, in fact, did summon boogeymen. It's actually beneficial because it keeps people like you off their shores and out of the way. All right. So yes, it's probably beneficial for you to keep thinking that. Actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, you should just think that. Black Hebrew, you should definitely keep thinking that. So you stay away from them. Yeah, exactly. It's beneficial that you believe in Santa Maria and voodoo and stuff like that. It's good because it keeps you scared and then they can have power over you. That's what it was devised for. But no, like Haitians won their freedom by intelligent warfare, right, and politics. If you read the Black Jacobins, people tried to reduce the Haitian Revolution to the summoning of boogeymen and voodoo. Do you know how advanced warfare, like, and psychologically advanced they were during the Haitian Revolution? The Haitian Revolution helped the French Renaissance. I forget what the right word is. The French Revolution, actually. Okay, there's lots of political and military history entwined in the French Rebellion. Sorry, in the Haitian Rebellion. Okay, so it wasn't simply just summoning stuff in voodoo, bro. Just read a book. But yeah, in your case, don't read a book, right? Be a Hebrew Israelite and think that Haitians summon demons so you can stay out of the way. Stay out of the way. Keep telling yourself that you're Hebrew. Nah, I don't find a problem with that, Swag Bless, right? Even if they are in, like, getting involved with satanic things, it don't necessarily mean that Satan's real either. It's just another set of people having another set of beliefs, if that is what they believe. Bro, your name, I'm going based on your name, Black. Right? So what's the difference between black magic and white magic then, Johan? Yeah, but the Haitian boys over in America must love telling you lot stories, bro. Keep these niggas out the way, bro. They ain't got a clue what's going on. You've been bamboozled. I'm joking. This boss is bloody harder than Millennia, bro. Or Maligna, whatever you say her name. Oh lord, it's funny, man. Of course, they reduced the threat at the I ate you with Bolt to simply voodoo. So they wouldn't have to admit that they were demoralized militarily and politically by a group of people who are supposedly inferior to them. They wouldn't have to admit that, you know. They just say it was magic, it was voodoo. No, it wasn't long thought out strategy and sacrifice. There wasn't bloodshed. It was magic. Yeah, I know the shield isn't cutting it. But I guess it works in the favor of modern Haitians if you still believe that nonsense. We can spook you. Well, that's a very like fatalistic point of view, a la Veritas, right? I think you should enjoy existing because you've got the opportunity to exist. There's nothing more. Nah, I don't listen to chants, but you should if you enjoy them. I hear Gregorian chants are all the rage too. What do you mean? What do you mean that way? Well, I've already told you, man. I'm not the type of person who's susceptible to that kind of nonsense. With all due respect, if you feel like that's significant enough proof for you, that's fine. But I wouldn't take that as a proof of God. It doesn't pertain to the conversation we're having. Is this a dragon? Something summoned. It's this punk. Can never find the boatman for it. There he is. Oh, now I'm about to get jumped. This ain't fair. Oh, you bitch. My fault. That's a good point, Socks. I'm not quite sure what you're saying, the way. I'll put it to you like this, the way, right? Do you think every belief is worthy of respect? You think every belief is worthy of respect? Okay, what if someone believes it's a good thing to put women in one of those things, like, you know, where they put the head in and their hands in and stone them to death? Is that a belief worthy of respecting? Oh no! Okay. Okay, so then you don't believe that every belief is worthy of respect then, the way? Because that is a belief that some people hold. Doesn't matter, right? I can give you other examples of beliefs that people hold. Do you think every belief is worthy of respect? I don't think they are, right? So, with that being said, I don't think anyone is just automatically entitled to respect based on their beliefs. Respect is something in the Western society we look upon as it's earned, right? It's not given. And especially if the things you believe are detrimental to not only yourself but others, they're definitely not worthy of respect. So that being said, I do try to be polite about my critique. But if you say things to me that are demonstrably false, I'm supposed to give you pushback. I'm not supposed to say, yeah, it's okay to keep having this bad thought or this incorrect reasoning, okay? But no, not every belief is worthy of respect. And in my personal point of view, I don't think anything is above critique, or like there are no sacred cows. Doesn't matter. Like you're supposed to critique all things to bring out the best, right? To bring out the best, right? So like it could be described as dialectics, right? Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Right? So nothing is really off the table. We're going to examine the contradictions in everything: religions, societal functionings, personal beliefs. Doesn't matter. So that's what I'm saying. Well, so in terms of point of view, depends what we're discussing, right? I'm giving you my point of view. My point of view is that humans invented God. I've given you the reasons why they invented God, and I've even given you the mechanisms on how they invented God. Okay, so I'm giving you something substantial. But if you're providing me nothing but terrible claims that you can't support, then it's my job to tell you, hey, this is why this is a bad claim. At least, unless I just want to leave you in ignorance, right? Sometimes leaving people in ignorance is the most pragmatic thing to do, but I don't think it's the best on this platform. So that being said, it's not my intention to demean people's belief systems. But it's if you offer something up to the public via your words, right, then it's open to critique, right? That's just how it goes. Yeah, it's Elden Ring. Well, like I said, Black Hebrew, right? The idea of demons and demonology are just as much human inventions as angels and gods. Okay. Until proven otherwise, right? I've got some books that will demonstrate people believe in demons, but it doesn't mean they actually exist. Do you know? I think the Earth definitely developed naturally. Right? I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty convinced that there's plenty of evidence to suggest the Earth and the life on the Earth have developed naturally, like without the intervention of something supernatural. I'm pretty convinced of that. As amazing and wonderful as the Earth is, and even space, my observations, my learnings, my current understanding doesn't lead me to think that any one particular idea of a god is responsible for it. It's just not enough proof to suggest that. Bro, see, saying terrible things like that gets me angry, Black Hebrew. That gets me really angry, bro. Leave kids out of this, bro. This is what I'm saying. This is the problem with religious thinking. What do you mean you saw proof of a demon in a child? Do you see the fucking problem, bro? That gets me really angry, bro. You got to fix up, man. You got to fix up. HM, I don't think something created everything. It's taking a piss, bro. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier on, right? Child is born with autism or ADHD or ADD, right? And instead of them understanding psychology, human nature, biology, it's a demon, right? It's, kid experiences an epileptic fit. He's being possessed by a demon, right? This is the stupid stuff that I'm talking about. That's a child you're talking about. It's the most disrespectfully stupid shit ever. It makes it like that gives me what's called righteous anger, and I don't like that feeling, because that would make me want to do some terrible things to people that think the things that you think. Yeah? So maybe we can reason through it and help you understand that what you're describing as a demon is very likely something psychological. Right? Saying shit like that really gets me angry. Poor kid, bro. He didn't even ask to exist. And here's you, a random adult somewhere in the world, saying that he's possessed by a demon. It's fucked up, bro. It's proper fucked up. Excuse my language. Nah, I don't think so, Fang. I don't think I know who that is. Black Hebrew, you need to get off the drugs, man. to get your life right, right? Get your mind right. If you believe in God, it's easy to get your life right with God, because you're saying some atrocious things right now, man. Do you know how, like, the type of thinking you're displaying is what would lead people to do terrible things like crusades and witch hunts and stuff like that, and you would feel that you're truly justified for doing it as well. Just completely ignoring the reality that's in front of you and seeing what you want to believe. That's terrible, bro. And that's like one of the reasons like people have fought back against sacerdotal oligarchies throughout history, religious indoctrination and power. Because when magical thinking people get in power, they do terrible things based on their magical understanding of the world. Right? Catholicism is the same thing, right? Islam, same thing. Hebrews, same thing. Protestantism, same thing. Over in India, same thing. Hindu, same thing. Okay? Whenever people with these magical thinking minds get in power, they do terrible things based on their misunderstanding of the natural world. They will unalive a child because it's possessed by a demon. To them. Okay? No understanding of psychology, right? No understanding of environmental factors, like illogical natures of people. Like, this is the dumb shit I'm talking about. And it's super dangerous. It's a knock-on effect, because this guy will go to another chat and be like, yeah, there's demons. This child's possessed by a demon, right? No, I don't think that to be the case, right? I don't think that to be the case at all, Jose, right? We have historical evidence of significant portions of, well, significant periods of times where humans, being the general population of a country, have risen up against the persecution of them by churches, by religious thinkers and religious institutions, right? All throughout Europe this happened. In the Arab world it's still happening. In Africa it's happening. In East Asia it was happening, okay? People who get into power and operate from a theocratic point of view do terrible things because of their theocratic views. No, like I said, that's not even true, right? There's plenty of evidence of oh wait, it's what we're supposed to do. Of religious thinking being more detrimental than helpful historically. Again, Catholicism is a great example of that. Same thing with Islam. Great example of that. Okay. Where, put it this way, analytically, you could do your Googles, right? Ask your sociology professors if you got some. Where people are more educated, right? They have better understanding of healthcare, the natural universe, psychology, politics. They're less religious. It's more irreligiousness is found, right? So the higher your education, the greater your learning capacity or your intellect, is the less religious you would be. And whether you choose to still believe in a God or not is a different matter. But your understanding of the world wouldn't allow for you to say something as silly as that child is possessed by a demon. Right? That's what I'm trying to say to you. Yeah, Lenin, I think his name was. Right? Yeah. USSR has nothing on Catholicism in terms of history. Has nothing on Islam in terms of history. Not even close. Not justifying it at all. Right? I think it was either Stalin or Lenin. One of them two. Oh, I gotta light the fires first. Wait, don't we have to? There we go. Hey, what's up, Clever? So how do you know heaven and hell are real? Anyway, like Hebrew, I don't want to block you, bro, but you gotta take a chill pill on all this demon stuff. It's really pissing me off. What's up, Jumbo Rat? How you doing? What Jumbo Rat? Well, I wouldn't say it's superior. Eastern Orthodoxy, or what was once called Oriental Orthodoxy, had a different take on religion, right? But it pertains to a different region, so it's more culturally influenced. Whereas Western Europe, going from Rome west, has a different take on Christianity. So as Christianity goes west in Europe, it starts to take on more of the indigenous cultures. Right? You've got like your Nordics, your Celtics, your Germanic tribes and stuff. Their ideologies get folded into, whereas Eastern Orthodoxy is kind of remains on the other side of that. But I think that's a lot more to do with culture than the religion itself. The texts are almost the same, right? From the original Hebrew or Aramaic translation, the texts are pretty much the same. It's the culture that's different. If that helps. Well, how do you know that, HM? If humans invented God and humans invented the concepts that they assign to God, then humans are capable of comprehending God. Could have done this without alerting them. So annoying. God wasn't here before us, ironically. Jumbarant, that's a good paradox. I don't know. Maybe you could tell me. I'm not a linguist like that. I know very few things. So maybe you could tell me what the definition is. Oh, I shouldn't have alerted that person. Dead. Just in time. Alright, we got to restart, yeah. I don't think we created anything, right, in terms of like the natural things that we see around us. I don't think we created anything. But if you're talking about coming up with concepts and ways of explaining the natural world, yeah, we invented all of those. We also make like technological or mechanical inventions too. Obviously, like we're using the internet right now, we're using phones and shit. Yeah, so I would grant you that we live in a life permitting universe based on our current understanding of the constants. But that doesn't mean there was a mind with agency that tweaked those constants for them to be that way. There's no proof of that being the case. But again, one could analogize what you're trying to argue to the rain puddle analogy, right? Basically, there's a hole in the floor, just like that one, right? Rain falls into the puddle, into the hole becomes a puddle. Let's say the rain has a mind, has agency. One day, the rain becomes conscious and it says, look at this puddle, look at this hole that I now formed a puddle. This hole was made perfectly for me, see, I fit in it. Therefore, it must have been made with intention for me to exist. But no, it's just a coincidence that you would be rain and have consciousness and fall into a hole, which is a container for your rain. Just like it's coincidence that we live in a life-permitting universe. But it doesn't mean the life-permitting universe was made with intention for us to exist in it. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I'm not arguing that the universe is a coincidence. I'm not making that argument at all. I'm just simply pointing out the anthropic principle of the argument you're making. It's an anthropocentric point of view. It doesn't mean that the world or the universe was made for you to be able to, like, one, exist, and two, have an opinion on it. Put it this way, you could argue that humans existing could be an accidental byproduct of something else a god was trying to make. You could argue that. But then again, if you're arguing for like fine-tuning or intelligent design, then one could look around and look at all of the, let's say, poorly designed things about the universe, right? The radiation, the emptiness, the lack of life on other planets, right? A bunch of different things that you could point to and be like, well, if this was made with intention, why this? You know? But that's just my opinion. Doesn't really matter. Ah, mate. This bit's so annoying. There we go. Come on. Damn it. Almost got it too. Get good. Why do you convince someone to dump their crypto? Y'all are pretty uncreative to be creationist. That's wild. H, no, I don't believe in other dimensions. I think dimensions are a mathematical possibility, but as so far as them existing, I think there's no way to know that. Well, currently. What's the evidence, Elite Kid? Because I think I am following the evidence. There's plenty of evidence to suggest humans invented God, all types of gods, from West Europe to Northern Africa, to ancient Mesopotamia and Sumeria, to the Indus valleys, to East Asia, modern day China. There's plenty of evidence to suggest humans created gods. That was funny, oxymoron. Well done. Maybe I missed the main point you made, Brantley. Yeah, so what, like I'm saying, Brantley, the point of view you're arguing from is the anthropic principle, right? You're anthropomorphizing the universe. You've already got this idea in your mind, I'm not saying you personally, but just for the sake of the conversation, that there's this mind that exists, right? And this mind has intention and agency and capacity to invent and create things, right? All of these things are things you're presupposing. Whereas if you was to just look at the world or the data per se, without analyzing it through your point of view, you may not come to that conclusion about perfection or intention or intelligence. You may not come to any of those conclusions, bro. You'll be being honest. Yes, yes. Have you heard of Onis? Oh wait, it stays lit. Excellent. Just need to do one. Okay, cool. There's two. Is that one? There's that one. No shit. Damn it. Oh yeah, there's an armor you're supposed to wear, isn't it? I forgot. Huh? Get out of here. Woo, close. An immovable mover. I know what you're trying to say, bro, but look, I'll explain it in this way. An uncaused cause, or a first cause, if you will, isn't synonymous with a biblical idea of a god, okay? A biblical idea of a god is one that interacts with time, in time, meaning it interacts in the affairs of humans. It has specific properties. An uncaused cause is not defined like that, right? An uncaused cause can be a set of abstract governing principles, right? Meaning no mind, no agency at all. Okay? Jumping, so for instance, if you were trying to run a Kalam cosmological argument, the final conclusion of that argument wouldn't be that a god exists, right? Specifically not the god that you're pointing to. What's up, Link? I've heard that thrown about, but I've never actually been on Reddit before, like as an account holder, so unfortunately I don't meet the criteria fully. But I'll take it. As a noob, I'll take it. Hey, appreciate you, Clover. Thank you for those likes. I don't think it was a who that created humans. I think humans come about through evolution, through speciation, and abiogenesis. Abiogenesis may be disproven at some point in the future, But I still think there's a very solid case for evolution and speciation. No, no, it hasn't been debunked actually. So, what you could say is that it hasn't been fruitful entirely yet. I think they managed to produce RNA in Miller Urey like ages ago. But yeah, in terms of people creating exact early Earth conditions and having life come about from it, it's a bit hard, isn't it? Up, Evan. What do you mean? I think the Muslim God is the same God as Christianity and Judaism. If I'm not mistaken. They might define it slightly different, but it's within the Abrahamic family tree. So I don't think I'd make an exception for the Muslim God. That's a great point, Garrett. Garrett on YouTube says 99.7% of the Earth's water is considered to be undrinkable. The Earth is totally fine-tuned, right? That's a great point. We would absolutely die. Most of the Earth is actually uninhabitable as well. It's hostile to human life, at least. So it definitely wasn't made with us in mind. Nehemiah, what do you mean by that? What is that? Just give me like a quick summary. Give me a reason why I should Google it. I'm not even wasting my time here. Oh yeah, we're supposed to be doing Millicent's quest line. I just completely forgot. Let's just double check what's the rec. Okay, we gave her the prosthesis. Prosthesis? Oh, at the Windmill Village. Yeah, I've jumped way ahead in the quest line, sorry. So, collect Valkyrie's prosthesis, gave it to her. At the Minula Windmill Village. Yeah, I jumped ahead. Way too far ahead. I don't think I've even done the Windmill Village yet. Haven't cleared most of Altus. Image of Mary. Oh my god. So you're into Catholicism then? Well, I take it to be, Josie, right? They might define it slightly different, but it's still part of the Abrahamic family tree, right? Within the Islamic doctrine, right? So it goes Israelites, right? 1500 years later, Christians in the New Testament. 650 years later, Islam. Islam builds on what happens in Christianity and what happens in the Israelite religion, okay? Israelite religion also builds on what happens in the Canaanites, the Babylonians, and the Akkadians, right, and the ancient Sumerians. Okay. This isn't a claim. If you ask a Muslim, they will tell you they have things from Christianity in the Quran. They have things from there is Judaism in the Quran too, right? It's not like what are you trying to argue here? So that's a dumb argument. Now, whether an individual says, oh yeah, Allah is not the same thing as God the Father, not the same thing as Yahweh, fine. But it's still within the Abrahamic family tree, isn't it? So, all that to say is I don't give an exception to any God. I'm saying they're all as equally made up as the others. What do you mean, Swag? Exactly, oxymoron. Because, like, no, yeah, we can. Is the word secede? We can take your thing, hijack your thing, use the things we like about it, and then tell you your thing's wrong. Like, yeah, but both Christianity and Islam do that, right? But in the same token, so does Israel, early Israel. But hey, this is the problem, man. Humans are building their ideas of other human ideas. There's no independent experiential data of a God, a universal entity existent across time and across culture. There's never has been. So yeah, they're going to come up with ideas, and given the time frame difference, they had so much time to go around the world and collect all the best ideas to make their idea. So, surprise. One could actually, like, if you was to look at it from a historic point of view, in the Levant or the Mesopotamia, which is like modern day, let's just call it the Arab world, okay, the Levant. At that time, most of the people would have been considered nomadic tribes, right? So they would have been in what's called like an arms race for the biggest, baddest god, right? Their biggest business was like warfare in that part of the world. So yeah, they would have been in what you could describe as an arms race for the biggest, baddest god. So yeah, when Yahweh comes about from early Israelites, it's henotheism. They're in henotheism. And then after the exile, the reported exile, they start to subscribe to a Zoroastrianism point of view of monotheism. But Yahweh then takes on the elements of El Elyon, right, which is a Canaanite god. Okay, so there's clearly a building up of God power through history. Yeah, but what is that proof of, right? Saying that a stone has colours. Like, what is that proof of? I don't understand. Like, what's the argument? What's up, Snazzy? Well, actually, maybe later today I'm gonna go live on the Drivers Mate podcast account, and then like you can come and talk to me in person on that account. I'm gonna do a rebrand on it. It's there in the chat. You can drop me a follow there, and we'll start going live on that one. In a lot of ways, Bruce, I agree. At least the earlier ideas of God, but then it's like as human minds start to develop, like through like the hominidae kind of evolution process. So we go from like primitive minds, which is have the capacity to have awareness, like base level consciousness, to high levels of consciousness. Right? So we begin to have the power of conceptualization, abstract thinking. Then our ideas of gods get more complex and more nuanced. Then we move into polis, agriculture, civilization building. Then our ideas of gods get even more complex, and they start to mirror human hierarchy a lot. So yeah, the first type of gods would have been a cope. But then when you get into societal constructs like social cohesion, those types of gods are literally made to control, right, to section off bits of society, to lead, to what's the right word? To mobilize humans, basically, right? To mobilize humans under one banner, one belief, one system. Do you know?
There you are again. Divorce.
But I don't think that. I appreciate you that way. Have a good day. Sub Juicer. Yeah, I think as long as we've existed, or at least had the capacity to think abstract and conceptualize, e.g. language, I think humans have been coming up with explanatory entities for ages. Some are better than others, obviously, but I think there's plenty of proof to suggest that humans are the ones that invent gods. There's so many of them. Robert, those eyewitness accounts only take place in the Bible. They're not like individual people writing letters saying, hey, we saw this event. That all takes place in the Bible. A historical Jesus, if you was to grant a historical Jesus, like he would be called Yahshua, and that guy doesn't align with the miracles or the magic birth or the resurrection. So there's no historical proof of the miracles, magical birth or magical resurrection. It doesn't align to historical accounts. All the things you're talking about take place in the Bible. Some might argue they were allegory, metaphor, or just the beliefs of his disciples. But historically, you can't actually account for any of that. Oh, wrong is it? Is it wrong? Okay, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are all written by anonymous people. No one knows who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay. Tacitus. Wait, if I remember correctly, Tacitus didn't even exist in the same time as Jesus, so he's not a contemporary of Jesus. So Tacitus is reporting stuff that other people have told him. Okay. Josephus, the Jewish historian, his entries on Jesus are actually considered to be forgeries. So I could give you a list of reasons why someone shouldn't take anything to do with Jesus to be more than him being a man. Yeah, so Tacitus wrote 80 years after Jesus' death, right? So he didn't even exist in the same period. I know a little bit of something, right? I'm not a scriptural critique type of person. I don't care to give Christianity any unique exception. So I don't give them exclusivity over the idea of God. I treat their religion and their concept of God the same as I do anyone else's. So no, I don't give them special attention, but due to the nature of where I live and where I've grown up historically, I know quite a lot more about Christian history, Christianity, than I do about a lot of other faiths. But yes, you're right, I don't actually care about it that much. Because again, their idea of God isn't exclusive. It's just another version, another cultural effect. In short, to me, religions are just codified culture. Do you know? Religion is a secondary concept to a god. It's not the primary discussion. Tacitus, 80 years after Jesus' death, so he's not a contemporary, meaning he wasn't writing about things that he himself witnessed. Oh, a big drop. Right, what we want to do is windmills, I think. Oh shit! No, we're good. A little bit of damage. Excuse my language. But yeah, anyways, right, on the topic of God, Jesus isn't a substantial enough proof for God existing. What's up, Francis? How you doing? I mean, you can give any one of the, like, I'd say to you, Francis, give whichever argument you think is the most potent one, right? Just pick one, run the argument, we'll see your version of it, see if it's convincing. But yeah, I'm aware that there are different styles of arguments for God. You've got your ontological, teleological, cosmological, you've got a bunch of them. But yeah, if you want to give one of them, go for it. Ambition, I don't take Shroud of Turin to be a proof of one, Jesus, and two, proof of God. I don't even think it's a legitimate proof of Jesus, personally. But you did ask my opinion, right? No, all that to say, right? I would say, even though I don't really care about, put it this way, I don't give exclusivity of the idea of God to one culture. So the same way I would treat Christianity, I would scrutinize it. I would scrutinize Islam and Judaism and Hinduism and, you know, Buddhism, whatever. Right? If they've come up with a deity, right, and they talk about magical happenings, I would scrutinize it with the same kind of vigor, if you will. But that being said, if I was being polite and nice, I would grant you that a historical figure called Yahshua could in fact have existed under the tutelage of John the Baptist, and he himself may have had disciples that thought of him as a Messiah. But that doesn't lead you to what you're describing as historical accounts of a Jesus in the Bible. Like I said, the magical stuff about Jesus in the Bible aren't accounted for in historical records. So, and that's just me being fair. Right? I don't know if I'm truly capable of objectivity, but if I was going to be fair, I would grant you Yahshua could have existed as a Judean apocalyptic priest, but not a magic godman. In the same way, I'm not looking at that hard. Yeah. I don't personally like. I don't make claims about where the universe comes from, how it begun. I think that kind of argument is not the domain of theism. Theism should be, or theology should be concerning itself with coming up for reasons that give meaning to life, not explaining the how and the why. Natural philosophy, natural science has long taken the reins of explanatory power from religion. So for you to be in 2026 thinking that you have more explanatory power than people, who existed around Plato's time is silly, because you don't have more explanatory power. So talking about how the universe comes about is just, we can do it for the funsies, but it would never be proof of your God. It just doesn't work like that, or at least not what we know so far. Yeah. So yeah, Francis, you could reason to an uncaused cause, but an uncaused cause isn't synonymous with a biblical God. Right? An uncaused cause could be a set of abstract governing principles, or it could be, let's say, something without agency. But an uncaused cause isn't synonymous with a God. Right? That's something like Aquinas would have tried to, or Aristotle would have tried to sneak in, maybe, or theological agenda. But I don't really feel like some people think of Aristotle as more a heretic than anything else, but they still use some of his ideas. But that being said, anyways, right, an uncaused cause isn't the same thing as a God in the Bible. So you could logically reason to there being an uncaused cause, but logically reasoning to it, like a priori, doesn't bring it into existence. Okay. So I hope you understand that. But that's one end of the spectrum. You're discussing the universe. But then, based on modern understandings of science, reasoning to an uncaused cause isn't actually justifiable anymore, because we now realize that we don't understand causality. Cause and effect isn't even a law of the universe. So now, in 2026, reasoning to an uncaused cause would only be reasonable to a layman, like someone who's not scientifically endowed, if you will. But yeah, like, doesn't mean we can't think. You can't think that. You definitely can think that. But yeah, just in simple terms, for the classical argument, reasoning to an uncaused cause doesn't bring it into existence. It would be functionally non-existent because it doesn't have a material physical effect on our current reality. Nah, focus. I think the idea of good and evil are just human ideas. They're really just description based on value judgments. That's what they really are to me. I don't think of like a higher good as a standalone substance, or an evil as a standalone substance. I think of them just as descriptions of things people detest or really like. That's all I think of them as. Yeah, like I said, I know a bit about the Shroud of Turin thing, but I don't take it to be a proof of one, Jesus as a person, and two, of anything divine. I think whether you're a theological type of historian, just a normal historian, you probably have some pushback against that. And better yet, he was like a scientist, so we definitely would take that shit. Yeah, not to just like say, oh, let me just take away all of your evidences. It's point of fact, it's not a solid enough piece of evidence. That's just how it is. Oh, sacrifice. I didn't summon her. Snap. I forgot. We were supposed to summon Millicent. Am I going to mess up the quest line? Let's double check. Someone proved me wrong. Oh, that's dope. Give me a second. Alright, once you give Melissa the prophecies, the next step time should appear is Dominuna Window Village after you defeat him. Okay, so I do need to beat him. Oh, I done messed up. Right, let's run away and come back. That's a good point, Oxymoron. Well, magic is all throughout the whole Bible, right? All kinds of magical things. There's curses, there's spells. There's all kinds of magical things happening in the Bible. Again, like people who are moaning about understanding Christian history, they don't understand the cultural context of Christianity through the ages. That's why they've got this like skewed point of view about things. Put it this way, Focus, right? If I was to give you an example of the kind of proof I'd be looking for, it would be almost ridiculous, right? Even though I could give you an example. But it's just in simple terms, right? If you're advocating for a god that interacts with the physical, material reality, like the affairs of humans, then it would need to be empirical, right? It would need to be public. It would need to defeat all other competing hypotheses, right? It need to be testable, okay? But if you're putting forth a case for an immaterial type of god that doesn't interact with the material world, right? So it's like a philosophical type of god, then a logical proof would suffice for that kind of god, okay? But truly, it wouldn't be a god in the same biblical sense. Yeah, so again, like me personally, I would say if your god requires belief, imagination, or faith to interact with, then it's functionally non-existent. It's just something that exists inside of the realm of your mind. Sean, thousands of eyewitnesses, there aren't, one, and two, the eyewitnesses that are talked about for Jesus only exist inside the Bible. There are no contemporaries of Jesus outside of the Bible that attest to his existence in that capacity. My parents made me. Who made you? Mr. Potato Head, I made you. I'm joking. I don't think that's true, CD. It's fine for you to have that opinion on me, but I think I have the capacity to change given good information. I've changed at different points in my life. I used to believe in a biblical type of God. I no longer do, so I have the capacity to change. And I think I'm open to facts too. I'm open to sound reasoning. But if there's something that a layman like me can spot as like a flaw, if I can spot a flaw in your reasoning as a layman, then it's likely the kind of argument or information you're given isn't good enough. That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, you're entitled to your opinions on me. You don't know me. I don't know you. So, more power to you, bro. Who made my parents? Their parents. See where this is going, right? Yeah, so I think that's the incorrect question, right? I don't think there was a who created humans. I think humans come about from an evolutionary process. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that. Specifically, the Homo sapiens humans that we are, we definitely evolved to this state. I'm an agnostic atheist. It's not a who. This is what I'm saying. It seems like you're the one who's not willing to learn, actually. It's not a who. It's very circular. Should it be an encounter of the third kind, Jesse? Or just fourth kind? Like we was talking about yesterday, right? How would one be able to discern a true encounter with God from something else, right? You know, like some other kind of supernatural entity, or a demon, or an alien, or psychosis. You know, how would one actually be able to, you know, determine that it was in fact an encounter with God? What would be the criteria? Me personally, I don't take the Bible to be anything more than a religious text written with a theological agenda. Now, there can be historical facts in there. There can be geographical places in there. But like I said earlier on, to me, religion is a secondary concept to a God. Religion to me is codified culture. So it tells you their moral... oh wow, he got lucky. It tells you like their moral codes, the way they dressed, the laws that governed the land at the time, stories about people that existed, metaphors, poetry, right? Lots of poetry in the Bible, prose, the foods they ate, the way they raised families. Like these are all cultural things, right? So to me, the religion is codified culture. But the book itself is actually a book written with a theological agenda. So it's not a history book. There can be historically accurate things in the book, but it's not a history book as a history source. Okay, it's written for religious purposes. To be fair, Benji, I'm just like an average non-believer, so I've looked at a few things but not in depth yet. I'm still studying various different topics. Like I said, Jesse, what would be the criteria that you would use to discern a genuine encounter with God from anything else? How would you do that? What would be the criteria? What do you mean, Johan? What other type of reasoning should I be using? Nah, Omar, I don't think that's the case, bro. I don't think there's even a good argument for free will in the first place. Also, you'd be surprised to know, most people don't know that the idea of free will isn't even in the Bible. That's like an apologetic. It's nothing to do with the actual Bible. Are you listing the things? What were the things? Joy, love, peace, healing of mind, transformation of the heart. Well, I don't find any of the things you've listed out there to be unique criteria to determine a god. Think about it like how Descartes said with a magical demon that can put you in an illusion. That magical demon could give you all of those sensations too. Are your sensations, like your senses, enough of a criteria? What made me stop believing swag, right, is one, I wasn't convinced enough of the idea to hold it in the first place. I had to realize it was actually childhood indoctrination and cultural indoctrination. And two, I started to learn more about religion and religious history and the things that religions have been involved with, specifically in history of people that look like me. So those are things that pushed me away. And also like studying in evangelicals and like prosperity gospels. That stuff really pushed me away from believing in God. So yeah, it is a accumulation of accumulation of things. But I'd like to think at least my reasons were valid and non-emotional. Or like put this very reasonable and rational. But yeah, and then the more I started to look into it, it became terribly obvious that it's humans that invented gods in the first place. And that was just like icing on the cake. But that's my opinion. You don't have to take my words. Well, those things are based on your sensations, right? Joy and peace. They're like mental states. So it's possible to induce a state of joy. You could do that with drugs, you know. Peace, it depends how you define that peace. Is your peace like solitude? Is your peace, I don't know, any number of things. But the point of what I'm saying is, what would be a rigorous criteria to differentiate a genuine experience with God from something else? That's what I'm saying to you. I'm just going to put on a kettle quickly. I think a better way to describe peace would be like a state free from conflict. I think that would be the best way to describe peace, probably. Alright, one sec, be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Did get a coffee. How we doing on the charge, folks? Do drop a like on the stream if you're on the red app, on the purple app. Consider subscribing and hitting the follow button so you can be up to date with the live streams when we go live and videos when we drop them. Goes a long way. So I'm saying humans invented God. My personal opinion is, or my hypothesis at this point is, all known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If you've got information or evidence to the contrary, or a reasonable argument, I'd be willing to hear it. Alright, let's see this quest line. Alright. Once you've given Millicent the prosthesis, the next time she'll appear is in Domina Windmill Village. Alright, cool. After you defeat the Godskin Duo Noble. This village can be found in the northeast. Surely goes most easily. What? All you need to do at this location once again is exhaust her dialogue. I can't even see her. She must be somewhere around. Yeah, I definitely think people invented religion, but I also think of religion as a secondary thing. It's not the primary thing. I don't think that's not what I'm saying, Johan, right? There are different ways to devise gods. You could say some of the earliest gods are based on observation of elemental things and celestial things, but how they become gods, they would be deified through like anthropology, like history, human histories. Okay, I forget the word for it. But yeah, not all gods are based on observation. Some are completely imagined. Like they're abstract in nature. Do you know what though? Interestingly enough, I don't think current historians have a consensus that Moses even existed. So that's problematic. So it's quite problematic. What am I gonna do with that? Oh, she's not around here. I'll be honest with you, Benji. Right? I'm not really interested in reading religious texts just on their own. I might read some accompanying texts that like critique them or break them down for certain reasons, but I'm not gonna waste my time reading religious texts. I don't think it's necessary. Don't waste your prayers on me, bro. Solve world hunger or cure cancer or something. If the power of prayer works, it'd be wasted on this. What's up, Smarter? So have you got some proof of that being the case? Where is she? Right, let's go, dude. Let's go to that thing again. It's like Real Sigma. Yeah, because maybe saying waste time is rough, but it's quite point of fact, right? I've got a finite amount of time, a finite amount of learning capacity. Even reading, like my reading list is really long at the minute, and I'm not the fastest reader. But to be fair with you, I don't think it necessary to corrupt myself with religious texts, because then instead of having these conversations that point to what we get into, the heart of the matter is humans inventing gods, what it will devolve into is meta. We'll be talking about scriptural critique. Oh, like verse Samuel says this and this, you know, like this hadith says this and this, and it's like I'm not interested in that kind of conversation, right? I'm more interested in learning, put it this way, one, cultural critique, and two, like what would be described as a continental philosophy. Right? So it's describing the mechanisms on why humans do what they do and how it moves society. I'm not interested in getting into scriptural critique. Right? If that makes sense, I'm not that type of person. But yeah, just by virtue of the conversations we are having, I learn a lot from religious people, from interacting with them, and listening to people who are smarter than me talk about these things. So I know quite a bit, but there's always lots more to know, right? You can read a whole book and still not fully comprehend and retain everything you've read in a book. So I think for people that need to improve their material circumstances, their material realities, social, politically, they shouldn't be wasting their energy reading religious texts. First, they need to understand. They need the tools to learn how to learn, and the tools to learn how to think, and then applying those things to real matters that have a social consequence, right? Before they get entwined in religion. Yes, religion does move society, but if you was to study politics, then you get a different view of how religion moves society, okay, in a very pragmatic, useful way. Not from the text itself, if that makes sense to you. Same thing with economics, same thing with medication or like healthcare. These are things that matter way more. If you was to make religion your primary study, it should be from the point of view of understanding humans and human nature, not just for the fun of the text itself. Right, yes, you would have to read them, right? But if you was going to study history, then you get a more holistic view of why they come about, how they come about, and how much of the critique is actually from the book and was added later by other thinkers, you know, your Augustines, your Platos, your Aristotles, etc. Other like Ottos, popes and stuff like that. Those things matter in the historical context, and they're the bits that it's not going to explicitly say in the Bible, you know. It's like this is what I'm saying about, like, no disrespect, but there's a lot of people who have incredible amounts of biblical knowledge, right? A lot of people who have incredible amounts of analytical philosophy knowledge, right? But they don't have enough data points to pull from to make clear pictures of the reality we live in. They're hyper focused on singular things, right? Or like individual meta subjects, which are important. Don't get me wrong. Professionals and specialists are valuable. But in the modern world we live in, specialists are valuable, but people who are described as like generalists can get a lot more done, if that makes sense, right? Because they can pull from theology, they can pull from philosophy, politics, and give you something substantial to think about and actually move the needle. Whereas all these people who are like very much so specialist in their individual fields, they have to climb up what's described as an academic ladder, which in itself is another kind of governance system, right, that they can't really operate outside the realms of. Same thing in science, okay? But that being said, as like, you could be a religious communicator in the same way you could be a science communicator, but to know different fields of knowledge and be able to connect them together is a niche in itself, right, which goes beyond being a specialist in philosophy, a specialist in science, a specialist in religion. To be able to consume these data points, draw conclusions, and give analysis is a profession in itself. Does that make sense? Sup, Xander? It's one way to look at it. Yeah, I don't think anyone invented humans, bro. But yeah, I don't say all that to disparage academics and specialists. We definitely need them because they, put it this way, a specialist is like a duck on the water. Right? They look like they're just chilling on the surface, but there's mad work going on underneath. So specialists are able to give like a layman like me a decent understanding without going into too much detail because they have the background knowledge, right? Because they understand it so well, they can explain it so simply. So specialists are super important, right, for furthering fields of knowledge as well. They add, like, to be a PhD is to add to the field of knowledge that you're studying, right? Most of us ain't ever going to be able to be PhDs, bro. So that being said, in terms of scriptural critique, that is one lifelong study in itself, you know? So if I was going to go on a comparative religion study, then it would make sense to read the text, but I'm not going to do that. I have a different agenda for why I do what I do. But that's just my opinion, right? Other people have different ways of doing things. So for instance, right, if let's not do that, but if I was to say just two words put together, a sacerdotal oligarchy, that implies a lot of things. There's a lot of context in just those two words put together. But in order to arrive at understanding of those two words put together, you need various intersecting fields of knowledge. You can't just be a specialist in one, right? And to understand the context or the reality of what a sacerdotal oligarchy looks like, you ain't gonna get that from a Bible. You ain't gonna get that from a Quran, right? Me personally, I would define religion as codified culture, but that's not necessarily the actual definition. Yeah, but you could argue DX, right? It's not actually Jesus who's doing that. It's people's own interpretation of things. Okay, the individual as Yeshua has long ceased to exist. He doesn't. He's not around anymore. So it's not actually him doing that. That's your own mind. That's your own cultural experience. That's you. That's your individual experience, private experience probably, but it doesn't mean it's Jesus that's doing that. That makes sense. Oh, good point, C-Man. Good point. Tell that to this guy. Well, I ain't seen this lady anywhere, so why is she spawning? Maybe we missed a quest line somewhere. We're supposed to be doing Millicent's quest line. So it said... Oh, maybe I messed up. Run across the rooftops, head into southeast. Well, IGN is gone to the dogs, bro. Shady Castle in this side of gates. However, I'll note that While this is the closest site of Grace, the location of proceeding is inaccessible from here. Instead, go to the northeast of the outskirts. I've got the prosthesis. Run across the rooftops, heading southwest. Southeast. To the rampart. Clean Rot Night. I've got that. Return to Millicent. Where is Millicent? That's the point I'm saying. IGN sucks nowadays, man. Better off just asking Google. I've done this quest line before as well, but something's gone wrong. Kaled the Gallery, we've done that. Altus Plateau, Erd Tree Gazing, Windmill. That's a minor Erd Tree. Altus Plateau. How did she just skip this area, man? I'm sure I'm missing something here. Let's wait till night. I don't know, Johan. That's not something I currently have an answer for, to be fair. Something that I ask myself as well. But I think if anyone, or if any group of people are going to have a good answer for that, it's going to be scientists, isn't it? What's up, homeless? Exactly, alright. And if man is fallible, his concepts of gods are also fallible, no? Excuse me. What's up, good man? Event, that's a lie, right? So he says the idea of the existence of God is an innate disposition of every human. That's a lie, right? You have to have knowledge of God to be able to search for it. And how humans devised gods in the first place was through what's called hyperactive agency detection device. So humans made up gods first. There is no knowledge of God to be had until humans invent a concept of God and fill that concept of God with ideas. So that's a lie. Humans aren't innately born looking for God. Possibly, Johan. Possibly. Well, I mean, implying matter, then yeah, it's going to be in a materialist sense, isn't it? Are you asking me that? I don't believe in either. It stacks. I don't believe in either of those. But if it would make more sense to believe in God the Father than Jesus, it would make way more sense. Like original Hebrews believe in it's like strict monotheism. God doesn't come down in the spirit. He doesn't come down in like human form. I can't remember the term for it, but it's strict monotheism. The original Hebrew, so they wouldn't take Jesus to be one, the Messiah, and two, God. They wouldn't take that. So, what's up, John? That's a rough argument. It's a problem of evil, but it's true. Why does that happen? That dude. My hide is filthy, I swear. Where is she, man? This is annoying. I'm just gonna go to the Halig tree, but I really want to do this quest this time. We're in like the 4th playthrough, and I've not yet got this ending, so I actually want to get it. Hey, thanks for the follow. Strict answers to what though? Like you said, like what do I think where matter comes from, the origin of matter, and I said I don't know. That's not a strict answer. well, it was more henotheistic. But in terms of monotheistic, once they adopt monotheism in the 6th century, so 6th century Israelites, this is after the exile, they adopt monotheism from Zoroastrianism. Their type of monotheism is strict. It means that God doesn't come down in human form. Right? He doesn't do that. I forget the right word for it. I'll tell you just now. Give me a sec. I'll Google it. Yeah, so it was henotheism first. Yeah. So I think it's like incorporeality. Judaism teaches that God has no body or physical form. Maimonides, or Maim, I can't pronounce it. Words. Maimonides, preeminent Jewish scholar, oh, that's the guy's name, Maimonides or whatever, codified that God does not have physical characteristics or physical limitations. There's a few other ideas too, and there's obviously the prohibition of idolatry. So yeah, they grant a Messiah, but not that God can be a man. That's the point I was trying to make. So their type of monotheism excludes the possibility of God being in a man's form. True, Goat Man. But they are still abstract gods too, right? You got like is it Cthulhu? I forget if that's what they call it. They're more like animalistic gods like Fenrir and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. Dogs. Gods have always had human features for sure. It's ironic, dogs. It's Fenrir. Well, the thing is, Rami, right? That hasn't stopped happening yet, though, has it? Even with the appearance of God, people still haven't stopped doing those crazy things. So, did it help? It's like Brunology or Bruno Long. My brain is gone dead, bro. Maybe at some point I'll read some of the stuff. I've come across 5 ways before, but that's probably the most out of that group of people you recommended. Oh yeah. So, but the thing is, the history of the Levant. I don't know if I'm saying the right word, but Levant just describes the Middle East. or is it West Sussex? The Levant is a historical geographical region in the eastern Mediterranean encompassing modern day countries of Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, Palestine. So that's what I mean by Middle East when I say the Levant. But yeah, you're right. Like most of the gods in the Levant have always had anthropomorphic features, from ancient Sumerian and Mesopotamian gods right down to Jesus. So you got. It's been a while since I looked at the list actually. Sorry, I'm just having a sip of coffee for the people who want to see the game. Everyone's more than half the people have fallen off. Can't blame them. All right, let's have a look. What did In and R? This is pointless. Ah, oh, bruv, it's showing me some North Korean girl. It's like trying to Google what this god looked like. It's just showing me some North Korean girl. Ridiculous. Alright, alright. Gonna see if I can do this thing. How about baptism and flood more? Alright, what has baptism got to do with anything? And I don't think there's evidence of a worldwide flood. There may have been a local flood at some point in time. Is that her there? What's going on with my controller? No, it's not her. What's up, Ben? Where is she, man? So there's mountaintop of the giants, and then there's a Halig tree. I remember her being at the Halig tree when we fight that Erd tree creature, or the tree spirit in the Lake of Rock. Yeah, as far as I understand it, Goat Man, we have a finite amount of water on Earth, so it's like no more, no less water is just gonna pop up. So there's that. What the hell is that? But yeah, I'm going to be trying to do a short test on the other TikTok later on. See if we can go live and just talk to random people. I might make it so it's just voice chat only, so I can just like multitask. But we'll see. There's a way to actually do that. She's not here. It's been a waste of time. What am I missing? Did I exhaust her? Exhaust the dialogue? Yeah, she's not there anymore. Mountaintop. Let's just go do Halig Tree then. Oh wait, actually, still more to do here. How do you know Jesus loves anybody? How can you speak on the behalf of Jesus? What if Jesus was full of hate? What if he was angry that people crucified him? What if he's angry that people are walking around with the tool of his demise on their neck? What if? So, have you thought about that? Why walk around with a symbol of the defeat of somebody? Why didn't they just make like a Jesus piece just with the guy's face? Like, why did they do that? It's a bit strange, isn't it? Yeah, but put it this way. It's one thing to say that a flood took place in a certain region of the world. It's another thing to say that God made it rain for 40 days and 40 nights, flooded the entire planet, and that this guy managed to make a ship big enough to pick up all the animals and pets across the whole world. It's a lot to, it's a big stretch, right? Man, I can't see her nowhere. Well, I think it was 40 days and 40 nights, I can't remember. Alright. Just thinking about the way that the Bible is written in allegory and metaphor in the first place. There's not a good enough reason to take it as a literal thing. Based on how that story aligns with reality. Yeah, the water had to come from somewhere, bro. Obviously, the majority of water would be in the ocean. What I'm looking for? I'm not really looking for anything, to be fair. In what way, Johan? In what way? Oh, I didn't know that. That's a good point, actually, Goat Man. It's probably good. It's a good point. What do I feel drawn towards? The fact that humans make shit up. That's what I feel drawn towards. In short. Hate the role in this game. Oh, I killed the citizens while being killed myself. Oh, my analog stick is broken. I need to get a new controller, dude. I think the best thing, well, who's to say, right? I don't know what I don't know at the end of the day. So whatever it is that's going to convince me, I think I'll know when I'm convinced of it, if that makes sense. But perhaps it will come in the form of an argument. Or maybe some direct experiential data, perhaps. Who knows? But I think these ancient things that people keep pointing to as proofs for a god that's supposedly still in existence, it's kind of telling, you know, why we go back so far for things that just talked about in a book instead of looking for current effects of the said entity. Well, she's not there. Oh, actually, that gives me an idea. Maybe she came down to speak to Gowry. So, I'm gonna stay for a little bit longer. I'll come back on later today. We'll do Halig. Let's just double check this girl was there. I wonder if there's a way to do it like that. That's what I did wrong. I knew something was up. She came for Gowry.
Oh, hello again.
Oh no, the dog's gonna kill her.
Something about this place felt familiar to me, so I decided to pay.
Oi! Alright. Dog nearly killed her. Mess up the whole quest land.
Oh, hello again. Something about this place felt familiar to me, so I decided to pay a visit, hoping to find someone here, but I've only found emptiness. Perhaps, before my departure, I needed someone to say farewell to. Well, never mind that.
Only problem with that reasoning, Johan, is that you've got no demonstration of the soul actually existing outside of a human concept.
Stay strong.
The idea of a soul, much less a mortal soul, are definitely human ideas, right? But they're not necessarily tangible things that you could falsify, you know? So where do you go from that? But if you're talking about mind, then yeah, like it's reasonable to say the mind is a property of matter. But how could one know? Truly, I don't know. But anyways, put it this way, it's currently beyond my understanding. What do you mean, dude? But that's just my opinion, like Johan. If I'm being honest with you, I think of the concept of a soul and a spirit in relation to humans as language they used for the psyche before we had psychoanalysis. So I think the idea of souls and spirits were describing elements of human minds that they didn't have. You know, they didn't have the vocabulary to describe. But like when you're talking about a soul, relating it to an inanimate object, then you're just talking about like the immaterial essence of it. So it could be like the form that exists separate from the material thing, right? Which in itself is kind of like antiquated, weird thinking. You know, it doesn't. There's no. I personally don't see a good reason to keep thinking like that. But as it pertains to humans and human nature, the soul seems to just be an abstract concept that describes elements of the mind, because there's no way to say if a soul exists as a separate entity to the human and if it exists in some other realm unaccessible, right? You can posit all of that, but it's just like how does one prove it? Do you know? So I'm not ruling it out as a possibility, but in terms of the reasoning you gave about where matter comes from, I don't see a good enough argument to suggest the material physical reality we exist in is produced from an immaterial one, because there's no one has yet described the mechanism which bridges the immaterial to the material. And to be frank with you, if we're looking at human history from a skeptical point of view, we might be completely wrong in our understanding of immaterial and material in the first place, right? This could all just be like what's the word, like formal game, like stuff that we're just making up to describe our experience and not actually the nature of the reality we exist in. So like same thing with our understanding of causality. Things could just exist simultaneously, right? Or what we consider to be time and causal is just the effect of entropy. Like all of these things could be the case. So in terms of there actually being immaterial, right, that's up for dispute, right? How a material comes about or understanding of material is also up for dispute. Do you know, like if you get what I'm saying, like not to be like Duma, like nothing is real, nothing matters. Right? I'm just saying, if you're gonna propose that the material world is coming from something immaterial, including the soul, then yeah, it's gonna need a lot of work to demonstrate what that immaterial thing is. One, that is it a substance in its own? Is it a field? What is it? And the mechanisms in which it produces matter. Because like if we just use like base thinking, right? Matter, physical substance in general, as distinct from mind and spirit in physics, which occupies space and possesses rest mass, especially as distinct from energy.
Okay, but energy is also a constituent of matter. So yeah, it's just gonna point you to the Big Bang, and I don't think that's a sufficient enough explanation. Yeah, so there's still likely some kind of transformation that needed to take place before a Big Bang in the first place. Or in order for there to be a hot dense state, there's probably something else that's not explained before that. Not necessarily like in terms of in terms of a temporal before, but yeah, in order for there to be something dense to expand, there's still something unknown there. No, I hear you. I'm not saying you are arguing. Right? I hear you, but like I said, I'm dubious about the concept of a soul in its entirety. I think a soul is just another ill-defined thing. I think it's a temporary placeholder for the psyche before they had the language. But yeah, if you're following like I don't know, like a physicalist or a material point of view, then yeah, the mind arises from matter. So then soul, if it does exist, might arise from matter too. But again, if you're an idealist or a dualist or like I don't know any other weird weird view holder, you might say the soul is what produces the matter, or the immaterial is what produces the material. Right? It's just mind fuckery at this. It's fuckery. It's not necessarily tangible.
Well,
But hey, that's just my
I
opinion.
must focus on my journey, for which I have you to thank. I must stay strong.
I think I know what an axiom is, but I can define it so I know for sure. I think it's just a proposition, isn't it? Yeah, a statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. Hey, Black Hebrew, you sure did stick around for a while, didn't you? I appreciate that, even though we fundamentally disagree. But hey, Johan, quickly write what you want to write because I'm about to bounce, about to be out. At least for this half of the day. I'll come back this evening, perhaps. But quick, Johan, I'm interested to see what you have to say. I appreciate you as well, Goat Man. And you, the damp. Appreciate you as well, Garrett. Whoever's hanging in there on the YouTube side of things, do subscribe. If you're watching secretly on Twitch, do subscribe. On TikTok, you don't really have to follow because the algorithm might bring me to you another time, but follow goes a long way. It's my bad, Goat. I just be on some random time and I'm testing things out, so I see what works, what doesn't. So yeah. So, I think are you an American, Goat? I'm assuming you're an American. Maybe Johan, that might be the case. But hey, right, I'm a noob, so I've got a lot of studying to do before I can really have a true opinion about this kind of stuff, Johan, to be fair with you. But that being said, do stick around, drop me a sub over there on that channel that you're on, Johan, that secret mysterious channel. If you want to come over to my main channel on YouTube is Culture Crack, okay? So you can come over there and be a part of the chat. Or you can come over to TikTok at SetWest10 and be a part of that chat. But I do appreciate you for being a lone soldier over there. And you, Rami. No, my parents are West Indian. Now, biologically, or like genealogically, if you will, it's possible that they're West African some way. But I wouldn't know because of slavery and colonialism, so there's no way for me to say with certainty. Besides... yeah, it did get real quiet. Always does, Garrett, always does.
But this such is the nature of this thing, isn't it? It's not like I'm the most engaging type of host in the first place, and there's not like, if I'm not saying something foolish, then you can't really just sit and listen quietly to like an argument. So it's a different type of stream. Well, like I said, Rami, it's possible. It's possible that there's some Nigerian blood in my family, but I wouldn't know for certain. I think on my dad's side, they're from Sierra Leone, so I think that is West Africa. I think. So I've been told. I can't know for certain. Just tell me about religion. Yeah, it's West Africa. Not too far off. Look at the leaves, look at the birds, look at the bees. That ain't gonna cut it. You're Romanian. Nice. How long you been in the US, bro? I'm sorry, like I just got getting distracted by YouTube chat. Now everyone's like, yeah, let's speak to him while he's about to leave to get him to stay so we can leave. Genius plan. What do you mean, Johan? Yeah, so I like how you snuck in the word creation there, cuckoo, right? I don't think of the current world we live in, Earth, as a creation in the sense that a mind created it. All of that is just like circular. You're trying a linguistic type of argument there. That isn't going to convince me, and I hope that's not enough to convince you. So, damn, bro. What made you go to America then? What, are you from UK as well, Rabbi? Sub up, bro. Sub up. Sub up, bro. I'm about to bounce now, anyways. See what I'm saying quickly. But yeah, cookie, cuckoo. I wasn't saying that to be disrespectful. I'm simply saying people use the word creation in like a circular point of view because they've already convinced themselves that there's a God and that God possesses an anthropomorphic feature where it can create. So then they look around and they say, since I believe in a God and I already believe in this creationist myth that God created everything, therefore everything I see is creation, right? Now you could use the word creation and not imply a mind with agency, right? You could say that like what we describe as mud is created by life deceasing, right? Just like biological degradation, if you will. I forget what the right word is, right? But what you describe as earth and mud is literally the death of other things. So earth and mud is created by something, but it's not created in the same sense as a creator creates something. You know, like a painter paints, or a watchmaker makes watches, right? That's the way that people sneak in the word creation, as if to say, oh, if it's a creation, there must be a creator, right? That's why I said it like that. But yeah, that's a habit of thought, and it's really a circular reasoning based on your belief. I appreciate it. Got to see West London myself a bit more of it, anyways. Fair play, goat man. All right, man. We got Romanian in America, a Romarian. Aaron, I was just playing, bro. Big up to you, goat man. I appreciate you. I always see you in all the atheist channels, just there, just soaking up information, bro. You'll have to tell me one day what made you get so involved in atheist kind of circles. But yeah, I really gotta go. Live from Live. Well, yeah, I'm not decided that life can only come from life. I think that's kind of a myth. It seems to be reasonable, but then when we start to look a bit closer at it, then where does the idea of life can only come from life would actually lead you to an infinite regress, right? When you think about it, the idea that life can only come from life would lead to an infinite regress. All right, man, I'm out. I'll chat. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one. It's 3:30. We made it. 3:30. Almost 3:33 too. It's a damn shame.